Good evening. I'd like to call to order the February 24th meeting of the Town Council. Can we begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, what the heck? We have a roll call, please.
Allenson.
Present.
Carmody.
Here.
Fishbein.
Here.
Laffin.
Here.
Reynolds.
Here.
Rivard.
Here.
Versace.
Here.
Tata.
Here.
Testa.
Here. Okay, we're all here. And now, do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve and accept consent agenda items 3A through 3P.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I believe that there was an item that should be moved as amended.
Oh, you're right.
And item 3P as amended.
Thank you.
Second.
3-0. 3-0 are the minutes.
It was 3-0.
I'm sorry.
It was 3-0.
Oh, okay. My apologies. 3-0 as amended.
Seconded as amended.
Okay, I think we're all set. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, consent agenda passes. There were no items removed. We'll move to the public question and answer period. Does anyone like to speak? Okay, yes, sir. Mr. Chardulo. Oh, hold on 1 minute, please. I'm sorry. Forgot again. We have quite a few people that were appointed to different positions this evening. Let's start with Whitney Mooney. Are you here? Okay. Thomas Vitale. The following were approved reappointments as constables: Joseph DeCunto, Robert Jacques, John Letourneau, Jim Seichter, and Tim Wall. Any that are here, come in and get sworn in. Fantastic.
Bob Jakes.
What did I say, Jacques? Jakes, I'm sorry, Robert Jakes. I apologize, Mr. Jakes.
All right. You guys just want to raise your right hands. Do solemnly swear to faithfully discharge, according to law, your duties as constable of the town of Wallingford to the best of your ability, so help you God.
Mr. Seichter, stick around. We also need to have you sworn in. Mr. Seichter was also appointed to fill the vacancy on the Planning and Zoning Commission for the remaining term set to expire on January 8th, 2027. So please swear Mr. Seichter into that position.
All right, raise your right hand again. Do solemnly swear to faithfully discharge, according to law, your duties as Planning and Zoning Commission of the town of Wallingford to the best of your ability, so help you God.
Yes, I do. Welcome. We also had a number of people appointed to the Public Celebrations Committee. Are any of you here? Okay. We'll get to that another time. There was one other item I wanted to at least comment on. I had left in the consent agenda item 3G, but I wanted to at least acknowledge it. It was an acceptance of a donation to the Animal Control Trust Fund from the Regan Foundation and Vinnie's Deli in the amount of $11,865. So I wanted to make sure we both acknowledged that and thanked Vinnie's Deli, Vinnie Iannuzzi, and the Regan Foundation for that generosity. Now, I believe we can move on to the public question and answer period. Mr. Chardulo.
Paul Chardillo, 2 Bayberry Drive. Good evening, everyone. I wanted to congratulate you, Mr. Chairman, for being selected in your new role.
Thank you.
And I also wanted to congratulate all of the others who ran and were re-elected or elected. So congratulations. Mr. Mayor, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I don't think it's a secret that I've been a critic of the budget for a long time. And by the budget, I mean the processes, some of the processes that we use, some of the things that are in the budget that I don't believe should be in the budget, and the information, or I should say lack of information, that is not being provided. But I'm not here to go into a lot of detail about that. The primary reason I'm here tonight is really to come publicly and verbally follow up on the email I sent to the council, making a request that the council begin to review the town's financial performance to budget publicly on a regular basis. You know, we've got a budget coming up probably in six or 7 weeks. And I think that I've never understood why we don't do it, to be honest with you. It's standard business practice to review your performance to budget on a regular basis. We don't do it in Wallingford. And I just think it should be done. The council, in particular, since the council is basically sort of the board of directors. I mean, you own everything in town, and you are the final word on spending. So why not review in depth how we're doing on a regular basis? I think it would be very beneficial, certainly to the public, give them an opportunity to come up, ask questions. It would give council members, in particular new council members, an opportunity to do a deep dive and really understand where our spending's going and whether you agree with it or disagree with it. So that by the time you get a submission from the mayor for next year, yeah, you have a pretty good understanding of how you feel about it and what you feel about it. So that's pretty much why I'm here tonight. So I guess I'd ask, Mr. Chairman, what's your thinking on that at this point?
I understand what you're asking for.
Yep.
I would say it's possible that there might be counselors that are interested in proposing something similar to this. I have had conversations with people about wanting to do some type of review more regularly, as you're suggesting. So all I could say at this point is stay tuned. Perhaps there'll be a discussion along those lines in the near future.
Well, I just think that I would encourage all of the council members to give some serious thought to it and put it on the agenda. Have a discussion, take a vote. I think bottom line is the way we've done things historically has led, one example, to where we are today. At the end of 2025, the town had a $34.2 million surplus. That's about $14 million more than we can justify for a AAA rating. So please give that some thought.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Comerford.
Bill Comerford, Broadview Drive. The basketball courts are on the agenda. Is Was the town engineer asked to show up for this item? Mayor?
No.
Was there a reason why we didn't ask the town engineer?
My understanding was that her presence wasn't required.
You guys are well aware that I've been going back and forth with these courts, and I appreciate the fact that you're bringing it up again. I spent countless dollars plus my time trying to understand some of these things. I recently reached out and submitted a request or a question for the town engineer because on the plans, there was supposed to be a set of final plans. They don't exist. I asked for them. They don't exist. They're working off of ones prior to that. I looked at the bid specifications that our new attorney, Einhorn, wrote in there, which didn't make any sense to me, and I followed it to the letter of the contract. I did have my FOI request to the engineering. I submitted my request to the contractor, and then I immediately get kicked back from the law department that the contractor doesn't have to comply with FOI. No, I'm not an attorney, but our attorney wrote in the contract, the bid. Bear with me. 27.15, Connecticut Freedom of Information Act, as codified in Chapter 14 of the Connecticut General State Statutes, amended the parties. Here to agree to comply with the provisions of said Connecticut Freedom of Information Act. So I exhausted all my resources. I reached out to the vendor to get the required documents that the town is supposed to be in possession of that are not in possession of. So I reach out to them. I get blocked by the law department, and our town attorney wrote in, it says the party, so I assume I could go down that road. Well, Attorney Einhorn says, well, it really wasn't, what's in there really isn't meant to say that it's just the town, which anybody knows that the town automatically would have to follow that anyways, and why it was added there, I have no idea, but it was, and it was recently added. So one of the things that I had asked was, there was a schematic for the plans, and it showed the tendons. And that's the important part, because that's what holds the whole thing together. And I took a snippet of that. I sent to the town engineer. I said, can you just confirm with me that this diagram is by which the courts are supposed to be followed to? And the response that I get is, and it seems like it's boilerplate now. And I don't know if that's from the administration or what, but we have no documents responsive to your request. Every time I ask, I always get that. And I get snide remarks. I'm happy to share them to you. And it says, I am not aware of any documents responsive to your request. That was from Allison, the town engineer. I just wanted to ask, I asked her very simply, does this diagram, which was on the plans, was supposed to be, that were issued, were supposed to be in compliant with that drawing? I can't get an answer. Because it kind of hinges, the whole $800,000 that we spent kind of hinges on that. But yet I can't get an answer. I can't get an answer from the administration. I can't get an answer from engineering. I get some screwed up language from our town attorney, and I can't reach out to the vendor. And I was hopeful that the town engineer would be here today so she can answer not only to me, but to you guys. Because without her here, it's just a waste of everybody's time. And Mr. Cena, do you know if the courts are 100% paid for and the bond was released?
I believe that it was paid for.
And the bond was released?
I would have to check with purchasing. I believe so.
Okay, and I appreciate it. I'm sure I'm way past my allotted time. You guys ought to take a hard look at this, because for years, probably at least a decade, I've been asking for the sidewalk inspector to be reinstated.
You're over and you're changing
Well,
subjects.
the sidewalk.
You're changing subjects.
No, I'm not. The sidewalk.
Oh, you are.
The
You are. Basketball court, sidewalk. You're changing the subject, so and you're over almost 5 minutes, and I'm trying to be reasonable with you.
Mr. Tuttle, just one statement. The sidewalk inspector inspects these construction jobs also, not only sidewalk, but it says that they're the clerk of the works and they do the inspections. So it wouldn't have been me, it would have been engineering, because the sidewalk inspector was part of engineering, and their primary task was to inspect all the jobs that are contracted out and make sure that that plan that I had was being compliant with. That's the important part. So I'm begging you guys again. We just hired another assistant town attorney. I'd rather see you hire the damn sidewalk inspector, because I wouldn't be up here then. And I wouldn't be chasing $800,000 of wasted taxpayers' funds. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Justin Weeks, South Whittlesey. Last time I was here, I was talking about Ramadan and trying to expand the parking to allow for a little bit of neighborhood relief. I've had conversations with the mayor about that, and what actually happened was the same as last year, with an expansion of hours now to 11 o'clock from 7 o'clock versus 7:30 to, I think it was 10:30 last year. Most of the time that we've had experience 7 days in now is that most of them are gone by 9:30. There's also other, related to that is parking bans and signs that are put up by the town to communicate these parking issues. If there is an issue in the neighborhood, our only recourse is really to alert the police to try and have them handle it. As of late Friday and again Sunday night, the police have been really not responsive, and some of the comments coming out of the dispatch don't make any sense. You know, I can get into details at a different time, but we're not getting any support, and they're not. They've been called to that area several times, but no tickets have been issued, so there's no recourse as far as doing something.
I know there was a request from Mr. Weeks to see if there could be some alternatives provided for parking and so on and so forth. Have you had any opportunity to look into this?
Yes, we sent a letter to the imam of the mosque with a map showing where public parking is in the vicinity, and encouraged them to make use of that. So we have reached out. Apparently previously the Baptist school across the street had allowed parking in their lot for their events, and at a certain point that stopped, which seems to have contributed to the problem. But we've certainly encouraged them to use public parking off-street.
Okay. Well, I'll want to speak to you, Mr. Weeks, at some point. You can give me a call. Next, Mr. Kellogg.
Larry Kellogg. I live on 19 Stetson Street in the Yalesville section. I'm really kind of glad you didn't approve your minutes from last meeting, because I want to point out to you, you emphatically stated that you updated me every 2 weeks at the last, and that's, if you look at the video, that's your words, not mine.
I said I updated you every 2 weeks?
You said I was updated every 2 weeks. Look at the video from the last.
Well, I was referring to the fact that
Okay.
you're coming to our
So-
meetings and you're spoken to at those meetings. That's what I was referring to.
Actually updated the council, not the other way around. But that's beside the point.
All right.
Okay, there's an ordinance in town for snow removal. Am I correct on that? Do we have an ordinance in town for snow removal?
Yes.
Okay. Does the state have to abide by that ordinance?
Interesting question, Mr. Mayor.
While we would like that, I'm not sure how we enforce it, but we can certainly let the state know. I'm guessing based on your prior trip here that you're talking about the bridge.
That is correct, sir.
We can certainly follow up with the state.
So it's been a month. We have an ordinance that the police can enforce. And I specifically asked at the last meeting whether the state was above the law. And I was assured that they are not. So can we get a fine, ticket, something to go to the state, and rather than beg them? I mean, I already went to the state, just to let you know. And basically they said it's not their issue, it's a town issue. So I'm getting what I call the circular motion, political circular motion. So that's all I'm asking. There are very, very few sidewalks in Yalesville. There is, as far as I know, and I've driven down that road multiple times, one pedestrian traffic signal that allows pedestrians to cross the street, even though the state has now stated that they are allowing people on the green arrow to turn into the pedestrian while on the sidewalk, and the pedestrian light is still lit. That's the answer I got back from the state, and I forwarded that to every single one of you on this board. And so that tells me the state really doesn't care whether somebody's in the sidewalk or the crosswalk or not. We know the cross of the school crosswalk on North Turnpike Road is a joke. Hell, half the stop signs in this town are a joke. They're, yeah, let's pause. It's more like a yield sign. But getting back to update, I expect to get my 2-week update this meeting. Thank you.
You expect what?
You specifically stated at the last meeting,
I explained that what I meant was you get updates because you appear before us every 2
Okay,
weeks.
so
I wasn't
I
implying.
don't care
that-
who updates me. I would like
No,
an
you're-
update
well,
my two for
What kind of
my 2
update
weeks.
would you like? What are you expecting? Are you asking me to send you an update?
I asked you to do something about the snow on that bridge. Nothing, zero, zilch, nada, okay? And that was not this last storm, but the one before that. And that was back in January. Okay, that's when I asked you. Nothing. I got nothing from the county. I got nothing from the town. I got nothing.
Okay.
So I go to the town maintenance department. I explained to them. They said it's a state bridge. I call the state because apparently nobody in the town can do that. I call the state. The state has said it is not their problem. It's a local problem.
Okay.
So I would like my 2-week update. It's that simple. Yeah, I've given you a month on the bridge, and obviously they're above the law. The state is above the law. It's an ordinance, but they're above the law. Call it what you want, say what you want.
Okay, I
Okay.
understand.
Now, the other thing is,
We're way over time
okay,
now.
thank you.
Thank you. Yes, in the rear.
Evening, Jason Michael, Meadow Street. This seems to be the annual pilgrimage for me this time of year. And I'm going to ask again. I've asked, you'll be the third chair I've asked. What is the mechanics? What is the system of putting the concrete automobile barriers in parks for the winter? Who makes the call? We all pay for it. We pay to have Public Works take the time to block off the parks we pay for. And now, this year's kind of sticks with me a little bit more. We're just making the residents, the park isn't closed. We're just making it really hard to get to the back of it. We don't plow them, which we probably should, but I'm not here to talk about that. But all winter, I mean, granted, it's tough to imagine now with the 18 inches of snow on the ground, but most of the winter, it's not covered in snow. And now we have a $180,000 brand new, beautiful basketball court at Pregman Park, but we're making people walk a quarter of a mile to get to it. And I don't ever get an answer. Is it the director of Parks and Rec? Does he make the call? Go block the parks up? Is it the director of Public Works? Is it someone here? I can never get an answer as to why we're blocking residents out of parks and paying to do it. Because in April, we're going to have to pay to remove those again, and then they sit in the park because they're going to be put back in next winter. And I've never gotten a reason as to why they're there. It used to be 8 or 9 parks when they first did it, 8 or 9 years ago. Then it was down to 7 parks, and then down to 4 or 5. And it had to be done at the top of Harrison, had to be blocked off. Well, it's not this year. We block off 80% of Vets Park on East Center. That's a trailhead to 1,000 acres of open space. But we make people walk almost from the road to get. I'm hoping for an answer.
I'll get you an answer.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure. We're pretty much running out of time on the public question and answer, but I do know that there were some people that wanted to speak, and I'm going to let it happen. Please. Because I let people go over. Go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Eileen McKean, Burkitts Drive. A couple of months ago, like 3 meetings ago, the Conservation Commission approved bow hunting to happen at Tyler Mill. And I keep expecting this to be on the agenda at some point, and I notice it hasn't been. But I think it's gotten hung up in the works. But I figured I would come and hope to nudge it along a little bit. For those people who are against bow hunting in Tyler Mill and other town properties, specifically Tyler Mill because it's 1,000 acres and it's such a large open space area, that if you go hiking in there, a lot of it is very park-like, like groomed park-like, like there's no understory. You look and there may be some low grasses and there's tall trees and there's not any brush. And when there is brush, it's non-native brush like multiflora rose. So people are like, oh no, we can't hunt the deer, we like the deer. Well, when you say, oh no, we can't hunt the deer, we like the deer, you're saying you don't like turkey, grouse, woodcock, orioles, warblers, cardinals, squirrels, chipmunks, bunny rabbits, foxes, bobcats, salamanders, frogs, insects, native bees, butterflies. Because all of those creatures depend on the understory that deer eat to depletion. That understory is the nursery, grocery, and safe haven for countless wildlife, bird, and insect species. Everything has a carrying point, and the deer at Tyler Mill in particular are about 3 times that population, and they have been for a number of years. Actually, coming up at the end of next month, that'll be a big drop, because when nature balances itself, it often does it in a very cruel way. Also, I heard a little pushback from the risk manager. Of course, I'm sure he did his homework and looked up the National Safety Council, says that archery is safer than all popular ball sports, including golf. So if archery is too dangerous for Wallingford, then so is baseball, softball, and pickleball. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Please identify yourselves for the record, by the way.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Alex Bates from South Orchard Street.
Thank you.
I'm kind of piggybacking on her point. Last year, I think about March or April, I came in here asking about the town properties and hunting them. I guess I went around town, mainly to the east side of town, took some pictures of these signs that were put up, I guess, by the state, I'm guessing, about the open land acquisition, which I looked into, and it says that you can recreationally, it was purchased with a state assistance for recreational use, which obviously hunting falls under. I came here, asked, I think it was Aaron, I'm not sure, kind of was told off about that, said, no, we don't hunt. Tyler Mill was only for, I think, small game and waterfowl, but most of the people back there are referring to like deer hunting for archery. But I know at least probably close to a dozen, if not more, town-owned properties that aren't very well known about, posted about, or anybody's out there really using them. I know that I was told that you can't hunt, we don't want people getting shot, hikers, whatever. I understand all that, safety reasons regarding Tyler Mill because of the mountain, you know, the trails and stuff, that it's obviously heavily used, but these other properties that, I know at least one of over 100 acres, another one that's about 75, and another one that's 40 that are coming to the top of my mind, that there's not even a trail cut through them for hiking or anything like that. So it's just, you know, I'm just here to support that and see what you guys have to say of anything.
Okay, thank you. Now, if I understand correctly, the Recreation Commission did not support this. Is that correct? Can somebody just verify that? I may be wrong.
I have the same understanding.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Hi, Rob Dennis, North Elm Street. Just here to reiterate what's been said about bow hunting. It is probably the safest thing you can do outdoors. So love to see us have a conversation about it, an open conversation with everybody on it, and beyond with Allie explained, which is amazing and for the environment, but it's also just us getting out in the woods and being there. And obviously, you know, if research is done, you will see that there are no bow hunting accidents. It doesn't happen. You guys risked your lives coming here today in a car over being shot by an arrow. So please consider just having more of an open forum about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is going to have to be the last person.
Hello, my
Oh,
name's Kevin
second to
Abon,
the last.
East Street. I am also coming to talk on the bow hunting thing. It's been actually tossed around in the town for a couple of years now, you know, maybe not officially, but we have over 3,000 acres, or just about 3,000 acres of recreational land. 725 of that is put aside for hunting at Tyler Mill, which is a bird hunting and small game hunting. Like, I want to reiterate what he said about the bow hunting being the safest of the hunting sports, and we need to have a serious conversation about this and the use of the land, because it was put to the side for recreation, and we're kind of being overlooked, and it's kind of disheartening that you know, we have an overpopulation in our town of Dare. The DEP says 10 per square mile. We have between 40 and 45. Wallingford, we also have one of the highest Dare versus vehicle ratios in the state, percentages, I guess you could say. We need to again have a serious discussion about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on, Bruce, hold on. Yes, sir. Go ahead, on the left. I was looking over here the whole time. All right.
Oh, you sure? I don't mind.
You still let me speak?
Yeah,
All right. So Bruce Conroy, most of you know me, Burke Heights Drive. And tonight, my issue is to the allowing bow hunting on town land.
Okay.
Specifically, town land that was bought with recreation funds, which was purchased for recreation. I understand there was a conversation about it. I don't know. None of the actual users were involved in the conversation. That's cool. That's why I'm here. That's why we're all here. Because we think the council should make an ordinance or discuss this in more detail. Because it is a legitimate question that has been being asked for more than a decade. And we've had no. Well, now we want to have an actual discussion. We want it brought up before the ordinance committee or whatever you deem fit, Chairman. And that's really it. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know I appreciate your allowing us to go over.
No problem. And yes, sir, finally.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you for the opportunity to speak, Mr. Mayor. My name is Bob McCarthy. I live on 146 Cook Road. I am a bow hunter. I am also a landowner in the town of Wallingford. The town land butts 2 perimeters of my property. You can sit at my kitchen table, look out my door, 40 to 100 feet is the town land. My concerns are safety. My wife takes care of my grandchildren each and every day. I bought this piece of land so we have the liberty to walk out and do whatever we want. I have livestock. So according to the state statutes, there is no boundaries. You can shoot deer off your front porch. My concern is people shooting deer on the property line, which is totally legal, broadheads, arrows going into my yard. My livestock steps on the arrows, gets cut. There's no way to fix a pig, so I have to put them down. My pigs cost me a lot of money. I breed them, I sell them. But my greatest concern is my grandchildren. We go out back, we harvest mushrooms. We're in the woods all the time. We live off the land. And the last thing, we talk about statistics, and yes, Bo is down. Do any one of you want to be that first statistic in the fatality and make the newspaper? I don't, nor do I want any member of my family. Now, I'm not against bow hunting. I am a bow hunter. What I am is interested in the safety of my property and anybody else that walks it. You talk, there's compound bows, there's crossbows. Crossbows shoot anywhere from 100 to 150 feet per second faster than a recurve bow. That becomes an extension of a rifle. Is it safe? I'll let you decide. But I don't want to take the chance. When anybody hunts with a bow or a gun, there's an adrenaline rush that you get when you see that deer step out of the forest. You compile that with a big deer with a big rack steps out, and all of a sudden your mind chamber starts a venture. And you say, oh my God, I got to kill that son of a bitch. You know, so you have people, not anybody in this room, because I don't know, whether they're ethical bow hunters but I've hunted with people that shoot deer. If they see a big one, they'll just zing arrows and arrows and arrows and hope to God that they hit it. I don't want that on my property line. And that's my grave concern.
Okay.
I'm not against bow hunters. I am one.
Gotcha.
I just am concerned about the safety of my property and my family. And anybody in this room were to swap positions with me, and I'm the guy looking for a place to hunt, and they were the property owner, I would guarantee you they would probably have the same concerns. The state of Connecticut has over 170,000 acres of public land in which anybody can hunt. So thank you for your time.
Very good. Okay, and that
Have a great night.
ends the public question and answer period. I will say that if any counselor clearly has a right to request that an ordinance be discussed about this, and if they're so inclined, they can speak to Counselor Rivard. Counselor Reynolds. Don't talk to Rivard. You can talk. You can talk to Counselor Reynolds, and we'll take it from there. Item 6 is a discussion of old, new business. The one item that is on here, I put this on there because out of a courtesy to Counselor Reynolds, who has had back and forth discussions with the administration on the situation at the Doolittle Park basketball court. And I just wanted to give him the opportunity once again to, or maybe once and for finally anyway, to explain what his concerns are and see what we can do from here. So, would you like to? Was there an update first? Well, we could do that. We would ask for an update if there's anything that's happened since we've talked about it last and asked about it last.
There's not a lot at this point.
What's a little?
I mean, we discussed an email where we are. There's not much more than that. And to the extent that there may be warranty claims, they have to be looked at by the vendor, and right now that's not possible.
Well, perhaps, Councilor Reynolds, you can clarify what your main concerns are, and we can have an open discussion about it. so everybody knows what the issues are.
Sure. So, yeah, when in discussion with the chair, I recognize that there's a substantial amount of snow on the courts right now. The reason why I had followed up with the chair was after the last update, that had to do with the heaving of the court itself, which was shown in pictures and wasn't what I had brought. What I had brought were specifically the questions around the concrete apron that was around the outside of it that's cracked in multiple places, as well as issues with what I find to be problematic with the painting. Now, I understand that the painting itself, the courts themselves are not regulation, but the point that I was trying to make is that the way that they're painted is it's as if they are painted on a regulation court, they just end where the court ends. And so with no out-of-bounds lines, with three-point lines that run up against the edge of the concrete apron and the post-tension concrete courts themselves, as other concerned members of the community have brought up regarding the cost, I thought that, well, if nothing else, they should be painted so that they can be played on and not run up against the edges, which are, can be potentially unsafe. For example, the picture that I shared that's in the backup, it shows that the three-point line ends less than 6 inches from the edge of the court that's closest to the softball fields at Doolittle Park. If you wanted to use that line to shoot a basket, you essentially would have to stand in the grass. So what I'm asking for is, if we've paid for money for these courts and the warranty suggests that the surface as well as the court themselves are good for X amount of time, I'd ask that they be at least striped so that they can be played on with true out-of-bounds lines that don't run up against things that you shouldn't run up against when you're playing outside on a concrete court. So that was the first point, was the painting. The second piece was the worry about the aging around the edges on the bibs themselves. And then the third piece that I had mentioned was that there isn't a sign at the far court that says you can't go on here with X, Y, and Z, because when I went there were marks all over it and there was stuff everywhere, and I recognized that we can't stop vandalism with a sign, but the warranty says we're not supposed to let people rollerblade, bike, skateboard, or whatever on it. And so it would be nice if there was a sign. So those were the three main things that I had outlined in the email exchange that we had, and that was what I was hoping that we would get an update on. Now, I understand they can't go out and look at the stuff because of the, with warranty related, but because of the snow. But anyway, that's why I followed up with the chair.
So the signage is something we discussed and will address. That's not hard. As far as restriping or painting the court, that's going to require an entire resurfacing. It's not something they're going to cover by warranty because we changed our mind about it. So that I can tell you, based on what happened at one of the other courts that had to be resurfaced after it was complete, that could be a $9,000 or $10,000 experience. So we'll look at that more specifically, but these courts were, particularly the Wall Street court, is really for pickup games. That we're not having organized games there intended to follow regulations. I could tell you that last spring and fall, even through the summer, I visited that neighborhood regularly, and those courts are used, and people seem to enjoy using them. That being said, the surface has a life, and when it's at its life and requires to be resurfaced, we would certainly take into consideration things like the three-point line. So we can, our preference is not to spend $10,000 resurfacing the entire court over a three-point line.
Right, no, and I wasn't suggesting we spend a single dime of our own money. I was more looking at the contract itself, which I'm pretty sure even after engineering signs off, we can come back and say we don't like this. And if that included feedback from the public that says this is painted wrong, I'm pretty sure we can go back to them and ask them to redo it. Now, if we can't, totally understand when resurfacing comes, fine, and it's a lesson learned. But at the same time, and I appreciate the fact that these aren't regulation courts and we're not looking to have a regulation game on it. I'm just saying that a basketball court has certain dimensions and lines, and ours are missing or sort of shifted in ways that logistically don't make a lot of sense. But that being said, if we could look into whether or not the resurfacing is included as it pertains to these things being the way they're painted, I'd appreciate it. If it's going to cost extra money and we like not to do it, then that's one thing, but I would like us to try and, given the amount of money that these things cost, and I went and walked, they're beautiful in terms of walking on them, playing on them, and I totally understand why they're built that way, why we invested the money in this type of concrete and so forth. It's just, for that much money, they should be done, and I don't feel like they're done the way that they're striped.
Can certainly ask if they'll consider resurfacing a warranty claim.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor. On to item 7. Oh, we have questions from the public? Well, it's not an action item, but I'll allow you to weigh in.
Yeah, Bill Comerford again. I'm almost begging you guys to get the town engineer to come here just to answer some questions, because these are simple questions that Councilor Reynolds could probably get. We're playing ping pong, but there's no net there. We should. I would appreciate if the town engineer could show up to answer these questions as opposed to kicking the can, but town has a tendency of doing that. We still don't even know what the root cause was for the failure of the surfaces. I've been asking that for over 1.5 years. We have no idea what it is. What caused it, so we know, and how was it rectified? Because it wasn't. They just resurfaced it, but the issue was never told what it was. And I brought this up before. The thing's built in a flood zone. You don't want to put post-tension concrete in a flood zone. Classics Turf's own website says don't do that, but yet it was done, which I don't understand. So that was the cause of the heave, and then the picture that I gave you about the heave, if you noticed it, the end it looks like the surface of the moon. That's supposed to be smooth, just like the end of a sidewalk, and it's not. I mean, I can bring up hundreds of questions based upon my construction experience that shows that a lot of this stuff should have been questioned. And I'm not here to berate anybody, even though I get accused of harassing or doing these things, as Autumn Alice is shaking her head, yes. But it's my $800,000 and everybody else that's watching this too. And again, if you compared this court to the one over at Pragnum Park, they're two separate quality of workmanship. I mean, Councilor Reynolds brought up the fact that the basketball pole and the backboard isn't even level, that they had to shift the thing to make it right. If you go look at Pragnum, it's far superior. It's stainless steel, and that's, I believe, is far bigger than what was done down at Doolittle, and their cost was less than either one of those courts. And it's a far superior product, and that one was done right. It was done with encapsulated tendons. I couldn't even get an answer for any of these courts. Doolittle by this company, which ones were done which way. I can't get an answer, which I have no idea. The other thing that I did for my FOI request was asking about maintenance. These have never been cleaned. They've never been maintained at all since they've been put in, including the tennis courts. So part of their warranty says, if you don't clean it, your warranties, there is no warranty. So again, I'm virtually begging you guys to get the town engineer. I'm not saying to put the person on the hot seat, but at the end of the day, these answers are more elusive than the Loch Ness Monster. And I'd appreciate it, because you're coming up to a new budget, and there's going to be a lot of things that should be questioned. We can't even get one answer to this, and I've been bringing it up for 2 years. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Move on to item 7.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve a transfer in the amount of $9,857 from contingency miscellaneous expense account to expense P&Z PS POCD consultant account, an appropriation of funds in the amount of $106,573 from surplus account, the transfer out general fund account, an appropriation to revenue transfer in account to expense P&Z PSPOCD consultant account as requested by Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Well, it came up 2 weeks ago, and there was, some questions were raised about the process, and we had asked that the administration look into it more deeply and address those concerns. So is there some type of report or response that is prepared that you can share with us?
Hi, Mr. Chairman. I believe Attorney Small had sent a memo to you regarding this matter that covers the issue. It's references Connecticut General Statutes 8-23, does not require approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission for the hiring of a consultant. I think that's what you're referring to.
That was a small part of it. And that's understandable. I think what we're really concerned about was the fact that a contract was signed and I know that there was a mistake made, it seems like. So we're just looking for an explanation of what happened and how, hopefully, what measures might be put in place so that it doesn't happen again. That could be from the mayor, finance. I figured the finance, the controller could speak for purchasing.
All right, so, just a basic error was made by the department head. So we came to this body on August 12th, 25, to ask for an RFP to be approved. At that time, we indicated that we would be back for funding because we did not want to ask for funding because we did not know how much it was going to cost. So throughout that process, so the whole process continued, and the department head, as soon as the RFPs were open and department head, but, he might have thought that purchasing should have contacted finance, and that's not how it works. It was not my project until it's brought to me. I knew approximately how much, the money was going to be. I kind of knew what the transfer was going to be, but until we had the amount, we couldn't bring it here. So at that point, there was an error. So the next kind of misstep is for a contract or just any purchase over for I forget the exact amount, but it's $114,000 approximately. You need to do a requisition. So if he would have done a requisition, right away it would have gotten kicked back because purchasing would have said, where's your account number? Oh, I don't have an account number because you don't have funding. So, there was just a couple of errors. It was caught because I'm not going to pay a bill without the account number.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have procedures in place, but even if he did the funding, if we came to the funding, he could have went to the contractor and said, start doing the work without doing the requisition. We wouldn't have been aware of that until they tried to pay a bill again. And then we said, hey, why, we would have questioned it there. So we do have controls in place. It was picked up. We're here to rectify an error. There was in my opinion, there was nothing done malicious. I think he just was trying to get the job done and he missed the spot. I had a conversation with him. I can pretty much guarantee that this will not happen again.
Okay.
And, from this particular department head, we will look internally to see if there's ways we can improve it, maybe in the language, to the vendor that, no contract can be signed until a requisition has been issued. So internally, we're looking to tighten this up, but the procedures were in place to catch it. As soon as it was caught, we brought it forward to you guys to rectify it.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Councilors. Councilor Rivard?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Senator. I think my feeling after the last meeting when Mr. Bajima was here is absolutely, no malintent. I also think, mistakes happen, and I applaud him. He wrote a letter with the mayor, saying I made a mistake. So that's pretty public. I think you're right. He probably won't do it again. And I think, it's an example to the other, heads of department. But one thing I did want to ask, and it sounds like you're sort of going there, and maybe this is, something you can confirm. In many cases, we like to have financial controls as upstream as possible. Got it. We couldn't issue a check. We can't make the payment. Someone asked for the bill. But at that point, we're sort of already committed to the work, especially if work has been started. In this particular case, I was wondering, maybe you can take it back with your team and others in the administration and say, hey, is there a way we can move that process check upstream, either systemically with tools we have, systems that says, hey, I can't award a bid unless that bid is funded. Something like that. And I know how the processes are, and you're right. People need to be held responsible for their own work. And people need to know what their procedures are, and we need to train people and all that. But I think we have a lot of technology and tools today, especially in the areas of financial controls, that ought to be able to connect this back to the accounts. At least that's in my experience. And I know, I've spoken with the mayor, and, we may not be using our tools 100%, but I would ask that we look into that and see if there's a possibility of doing something like that, and then you could get back to us, because I know it can be done. Okay?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, please.
So last fall, we did have a training on purchasing procedures, and the timing of it was that the training was after this mistake had happened. But it was
Understand.
for all department heads.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and this is me just trying to push ourselves to try to move things upstream so we can catch it earlier. And if, to the extent we can do that, Mr. Senna, I think folks would appreciate that across the board.
So the contract signing should have happened, the contract should not be signed until it got through the procedures. So normally, the purchasing agent would sign the contract as the PO is getting produced at the same time. So, but if they don't bring it through the system, there's no, and this was kind of a special circumstance because this was something that had to be done, but it wasn't budgeted for. It should have been part of the 2026 budget.
Yeah, no, and look, I'm not throwing stones at anybody. I think we need to be kind of accepting and interested in continuous improvement and learning. And I can foresee other similar situations occurring in the future, and those are the ones we should try to help. It is what it is. To your point, we have to correct kind of what happened, and it's okay. Stuff happens. No one's, upset, angry. We shouldn't have pitchforks on people trying to do their jobs. But we should also ask ourselves, can we help someone out in the future, maybe reduce the number of mistakes? That's where I'm at.
Oh, I agree.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if we could have an update at some point, next month or something like that, it'd be great.
Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my understanding is that in August of 2025, an RFP was sought from the council with regard to this job. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that was the first that this matter came to our attention, that we initiated something?
So at that point, this is you're asking, this is not my item. So I didn't need a POCD done, so I don't think I'm the right person to answer that question.
Okay.
So,
Well, I don't know.
When he needed to do it, he consulted with purchasing, and for them to do an RFP, they had to come to you. So that's why it was brought forward to you to use the RFP process.
When you say he, who specifically are you referring to?
The
Town planner.
town planner,
Yeah, Kevin Pagini?
yes.
Okay. So I have to question the contract that's at least in our backup has this sentence. Whereas the town did authorize the mayor and town committee to enter into this agreement at a regularly scheduled meeting of the board on January blank 2025. Why does that sentence appear in the document?
Counselor, that would have been the consultant's agreement form that was presented probably with the RFP, I'm thinking, but I don't know for certain because I wasn't involved with it.
I thought I just heard that the RFP was presented to us in August of 2025. This date is quite significantly before that date.
My guess is some sort of placeholder. It wasn't filled in.
Okay, so you would agree that January is just factually wrong, correct, based upon what I'm hearing?
As far as I'm aware, it was not the date that anything was actually executed, other than the approval for the request for proposal.
No, I don't think the request for, based upon what I've heard tonight, the request for proposal did not come before this body in January 2025, perhaps August of 2025. Please correct me if I'm wrong. That's what I heard, right?
Are you asking me, Craig?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, Kevin's not here. I have a document that's been signed by an elected official here of our town. I'm not aware of some town committee. I mean, it should say town council, I think. It's only a couple page document. So, well, it's six, well, no, it's 3 pages long. So, although it says 1 through 6, yeah. So, oh my God. Who reviews these documents before they're signed?
Contracts go before the law department.
Okay. So, am I supposed to have faith when a 3-page document that has a blank for a date and a totally wrong, I mean, I'm not gonna, I'm just, concerned. The other concern I have is this body had nothing to do with the selection of this entity to render the service, correct? The RFP gave the department carte blanche to deal with whomever they chose, correct?
Yes, it followed the normal procedures.
And, I had read with distress about, I believe it was this particular entity that did some miscalculations with the new high school fantasy. And I'm wondering what input or what reporting or what was relied upon, or whether that was even brought to the attention of whomever made this selection. Because, I mean, I only learned about that from reading what we have left of a newspaper. I think if I was the one reviewing this, I would have at least read the contract. But I would have had the opportunity to ask that entity, why did they make that miscalculation? And I don't know who else bid on this, quite frankly. I mean, I'm not proud of this, so I just want that to be said and known. If this is the kind of material that we end up when we give power to someone, I'm disappointed. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else on the council? Okay, public? Mr. Cohen?
Thank you. Jeff Cohan. Currently, I am the Vice Chair of Planning and Zoning. When this RFP went out, I was just a regular commission member. I'm going to try and keep this fairly brief and to the point because I think a lot of issues with this has to be said before the Planning and Zoning Commission itself. So, Planning and Zoning is the responsible body for producing the POCD. It's not the town planner, it's not the town council, it's not the mayor, it's not the town attorney, it's Planning and Zoning Commission. I don't believe sincerely that there was any malicious intent on Kevin's part. I am disappointed that this RFP went out, and it does say that specifically the Town of Wallingford Planning and Zoning Commission is seeking consultant services. We had no input into the RFP. We did not see it. We did not review it. We did not have the courtesy to interview the respondents to the RFP. We don't know how many, as Mr. Fishbein said, how many people responded to the RFP. Don't know how it was selected as far as the consultant. So there's a lot of issues with how this was done. And I would also take exception to the opinion from Janice Small, simply because, again, Planning and Zoning Commission is the responsible party for producing the POCD. In those general statutes, it does say that the commission can get a consultant to help with any work that it needs to be done. And basically the way we would have done that is to work with Kevin to produce this. And again, we did not have that opportunity. And this is where I have a lot of trouble. So, I don't know how you guys want to go forward from here. I mean, you got to pay the bill. He has done some work. But again, I think, and, given this body, and this comes up once every 10 years. So, I mean, the process is not something you deal with every day. So I can understand that. But again, I think the fact we didn't have any input into this leaves us in a bad spot. If I had done this in my professional career and had to sign my name to the finished product, I would want input into this. And we did not have that courtesy. And, again, I have myself done a number of RFPs in my business career. And one of the things that really struck me reading this was the lack of a disclaimer in here that says to, potential applicant respondent to the RFP is if they have any conflicts of interest. That should be a boilerplate item in your RFPs. Disclose any personal relationships, other business relationships, and I didn't see that in here. And I think, that's something, and I'm not saying there's any, problem with who they've hired, but, it should be something that should be identified. And maybe it was asked in the interviews. I would really love to know how many people responded to this. And again, to Mr. Fishbein's point, you know, I would have been asking a lot of questions on, you know, the consultant's experience. I did look up, you know, their business on the internet. They do seem to have some experience in this area, but I would have liked to, you know, have heard it from the consultant itself. And again, I'll bring this up at one of our planning and zoning commissions. Thanks.
Again, Larry Kellogg, 19 Stetson Street. Ed, I'm going to make this real simple. I worked in the nuclear industry for over 25 years. I was a senior electrical instructor. We spoke in acronyms. What does P0 or POCD mean?
Plan of Conservation and Development.
Okay, why can't that be spelled out? Does everybody in this room know what all those acronyms mean?
I don't know.
All I'm asking for is, you know.
I just told you, it's the Plan of Conservation and
I
Development.
understand that, sir. My point being is, this is all through these documents. What's YSS? That was on one of your items that you approved. Item 3, Delta. What does YSS mean?
Youth and Social Services.
Okay. Why can't that be spelled out?
I don't know, it's something.
That's all I ask.
Something to consider.
Thank you.
Mr. Comerford.
Bill Comerford, Broadview Drive. I think one of the big key things here is I got accused of hanging out Mr. Pagini out to dry, apparently, by one of the town councilors. I personally didn't appreciate that. But I'm glad you guys brought this up, and I was correct. Because if you look into deeper dive on the charter was violated at least 3 or 4 separate times.
Excuse me, that is your opinion.
My opinion.
In my opinion, the charter was not violated, and I looked very closely at this. So before you publicly make a statement that you were correct about something as serious as a charter violation, you should know what you're talking about. And in this case, the charter was not violated.
Do you want me to explain how it was violated?
No, because I know what you think it was.
Well, no, it's factual.
The statement is, if the expenditure is made in violation of the charter, then something has to happen.
No.
Nothing was done in violation of the charter. The purchasing was done according to the purchasing ordinance. Finance did not make any payments without a town council appropriation, and the only way somebody obligated the town was by awarding a contract, which they did according to the purchasing ordinance. So nobody violated the charter.
So, Chairman, just to correct you, you just said that the purchase was awarded, and it followed the purchasing ordinance. That's what you just said.
Yeah.
It was not. Because
was it not?
The purchasing ordinance states that you can't make the purchase unless the money is approved. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Cena. That's how it got caught.
I don't have the document in front of me, so I can't correct you if you're
But it's your department. You're in charge of purchasing.
Doesn't mean I have the ordinance memorized.
So, Mr. Tess, I don't want to. You're wrong. That's my opinion. So this isn't the first time this has happened. It's nice to say, you know what? Let's sing Kumbaya and let's move on. And I appreciate Mr. Rivard's thing. This happened a year ago with the electric division. The individual down who I believe was the general manager made 5 separate purchases, unauthorized, no expenditure, no approval. And then what happens? 2 days before Mr. Cervoni became mayor, Dickinson had a meeting with them and gave him a seal of approval. Just put it down that it was an emergency expense. And no one knew it. You guys didn't know it. I don't know who else knew about it, but that's what took place. And it was a tune of like 15 grand. And it wasn't one time. It was either 4 or 5 separate times. Now fast forward, and this, I only have 2 more statements. I'm glad that Janice Small wrote that down and I'm glad that Tim Cena caught it. But what I'm not glad about is the same thing should have took place, which you'll find out soon enough, that they didn't follow the proper procedure for the expenditure for those courts. Because your mayor said that nobody inspected it. The contract said nothing gets paid until the engineer signs off on it and inspects it. And it got paid. You heard it's all paid in full. Probably the bond got released. So it gets clearly, it's either you're right and this is a one-off and it is what it is, or they should have caught it with the courts, and they didn't. And now it's going to come back and bite them. My final statement is, it wasn't Kevin's fault. It's the mayor's fault. The mayor signed it. You guys see his signature up there. It was dated November 13th. They admitted that it gets kicked to law. Why didn't law kick it back to purchasing and say, hey, whatever? But law must have kicked it back to him. Mayor, did the law department give it back to you to have you sign it?
That's typically what would have happened.
So the law department reviewed this, the mayor signed it, but there's no money there. It's pretty bad. Thank you.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the council. Councilor Risacci.
So I wanted to thank Jeff Cohen for coming from Planning and Zoning, because I think it is really important that he was here to offer the perspective of Planning and Zoning. I am disappointed that they were left out of the process. My understanding is from research from some of the other counselors that there were 5 organizations that bid, and there were only 2 people that actually scored the RFP. So I'm hoping that as we look at our processes and look at how we can tighten things, that one of the things that we potentially look at is the procurement ordinance, because that is pretty weak governance to only have 2 people, to not include planning and zoning. There really should be best practices as a minimum of 3 scorers on any procurement. With 2, you could have at least, 50% bias that could come into the process. So I would like to see that process get tighter, and hoping that we can learn from this, but look introspectively and look at our ordinances and look at our charter and see where we can get tighter and better, because I think we should always be self-assessing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
Allenson?
Yes.
Carmody?
Excuse me, yes.
Fishbein?
No.
Laffin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Rivard?
Yes.
Versace?
Yes.
Tata?
No.
Testa?
I vote yes, the motion passes. Item 8.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to use RFP for health and life insurance benefits consultant as requested by Human Resources.
Second.
I want to just explain why this is even here, because we've had a couple of situations recently with RFPs, and the RFP process, as I understand it, it's very similar to when like someone's outside, a contract is presented to us, and it's if we don't act within 30 days, it becomes effective. My understanding is the requirement is that whatever department wants to use the RFP process needs to inform us that they want to do that. And we have the option of, putting it on an agenda and denying it, or we let it go through. And that's typically how this happens. And this one would have been pretty much in the consent agenda, but I think, or yes, but I wanted it just so that everybody gets an understanding of how the process works. So that's why I made you come.
That's fine.
You just clarify that from a purchasing perspective. In this particular one, though, if you don't mind letting us know what you're looking to do.
Sure. So
Identify yourself.
Oh, my name's Jim Hutt. I'm the town HR director.
Thank you.
Health insurance and the consultant falls under the HR department for the town of Wallingford. And so for this process, we're looking to do an RFP and to comply with the purchasing ordinance. Looking at the current contract for an insurance consultant is up right now. There are many vendors out there, and when you look at the type of services that we're looking to have done on a $30 million budget item that continues to grow from 7 to 10% each year, I think it's prudent, and it's my professional recommendation that we use the RFP process to look at qualifications as well as the price.
Thank you very much. Anyone on the council have any questions? Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, it's a important decision.
Yes.
It's probably one of the most important decisions. I mean, I think since I've been up here, because it affects every employee of the town, almost all of them. The ones that have their health insurance through their spouse, obviously it wouldn't affect. But I know we're talking about a lot of money here. I'm generally in favor of what's before us, but I do have reservations based upon the prior item, the discussions that we're having tonight. As we move forward and we look at ordinances with regard to purchasing, I would suggest, and, certainly we could probably put something in place prior to this process being completed, but, perhaps the final document should come before the council and that we see who bid. I'd have an opportunity to read the contract and be part of the process, because I got to tell you, I've been up here a long time, and from the very beginning, there's always been problems with RFP. From the cemetery wall to the POCD, there's always been problems with who's rendering the service, why they're rendering the service, who was selected, all of that stuff. And I think it's about time that we became part of that process. So I look forward to the discussions with my colleagues. For the time being, I'm comfortable. I'm just really, really concerned about the back end on this one, because this is going to be a lot of money, no matter who gets selected. And I think it's important that we're part of that selection process. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Tanner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Hutt.
Good evening.
I agree with Councilor Fishbein. I think I like the idea as a whole, because obviously this is a massive expense, so I like the idea of a consultant to compare all our options. I'm hopeful that that will yield a good plan and good savings for the taxpayers. We know as with any business, personnel is our largest expense, and obviously the health insurance is a massive part of our expense in town government. But I too am a little bit concerned about past history in town, not with your department, just in general. Whenever we have consultants, there tends to be thousands and tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on consultants, and many times with dubious results. We've had inaccurate results to the tune of several $1 million recently with certain consultants that were caught. So I'm always concerned when we have something for a consultant, because it seems like it's always a lot of money, and I'm never quite sure the results are as great as we hope they would be. So I am hopeful this process goes smoothly, and I'm supportive of it. But I do agree with Councilor Fishbein's statements also. Thank you.
So if I can just make a point, so we're talking about the health insurance budget is approximately $30 million. The consultant cost right now per year is $60,000. If we went with a qualifications base, that could increase, it could stay the same. So nothing is going to be much different with an RFP process as it would with a straight bid. It's just that you're weighting qualifications of the vendor more than you would for pricing. So little, if anything, would change between a straight bid and an RFP. It's just that you want the qualifications for such a complex subject, such as health insurance, to be weighted more than you do for price. This is not buying pencils, okay? And so that's why I'm coming to you, after 23 years of experience, I'm coming to you to offer my recommendation that this should be the process that we use.
Thank you. Do we use a consultant currently?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so this isn't a new practice, it's just a new way of, you want an RFP as opposed to a bid process?
It's an RFP process as opposed to a straight 50-50 bid, yes.
Okay, so how was the current consultant chosen?
50-50, 50% qualifications, 50% cost, it's a straight bid.
Okay. Does this also cover Board of Education health plan?
Yes.
It does, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, please.
Mr. Hutt, for how long have we had a consultant to assist us with this type of benefit?
I've been here 23 years. We've had a consultant for all of 23 years. This is not a new service. It's a very expensive commodity that we're purchasing, health insurance. Right now we're out with an RFP for the health insurance provider. We're in that process right now. And it made sense to me that if we're going to bid health insurance through the RFP process, well, the consultant should come through that process as well.
Yes, Councilor Rivard.
Thank you, Mr. Hutton. I mean, I'm fully aligned with using, highly qualified professional services for these type bids, given the complexity and given the marketplace that exists. Thank you for taking the time. What's your process for when you weight higher qualifications? How do you judge between those bids? What's the process you use internally to make sure you're confident that you're getting the best selection?
We're going to look at some issues such as long-term planning for health insurance. We're going to look at plan designs, what their process is for looking at and evaluating plan designs, what their role is in collective bargaining. A lot of these issues, whenever you're going to implement anything new from a plan design, bargaining units don't necessarily take to that too kindly, and you may have to go to binding arbitration to achieve the savings that you need. You need good people who are able to articulate the plan, who are able to articulate the cost, and present that to an arbitration panel, because in arbitration, it's all data-driven. It's very little discussion, people sitting up there rambling. It's all data-driven, and we need people who can deliver that type of service for something that costs $30 million per year. And that's my professional judgment. So.
Yeah, no, don't doubt that at all. Pulling on the thread from Councilor Rosacci a little bit earlier, how many folks at the time you make that selection? How many folks is it 3, 4, 5 people have weighed in and supported you in that decision? How does that work? And from where do they come? At some point, you make a yes. This is the judgment.
We have folks from the town, and we have individuals from the Board of Ed, and we will be doing interviews. We'll be rating them. We'll be rating Part A. It's all about their qualifications, the size of the clients that they have, the different municipalities that they work for. There's a set of criteria that they have to meet to even get in the door. So it's my goal to have representatives from the town as well as the Board of Ed participate in that final selection.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Councilor Tana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up on that, when you say representatives from the town, do you mean town council or town government?
No, I'm talking about myself, the assistant HR director, perhaps Tim Senna.
So when you said Board of Ed members or people from central office?
It would be, we can have the superintendent, we can have the business manager.
Okay, so not elected officials?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. A motion was actually made, right? Normally, we could have just accepted the understanding and wait your 30 days from when you requested this, which is in a few days anyway.
I didn't have an action pending, so that's why when I sent it to you, it was just to give you notice this is what we intend on doing.
Right.
Right.
So we could just let it go, or we could vote on it, and it's approved tonight, that they allow them to use it. Might as well call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Thank you
Have to
very
wait
much.
30 days. Thank you very much. And we appreciate the explanation, and I know it's helping us understand the processes better. Next item. Next item is item 9. It's a discussion. It does say possible action, but we put that on every agenda item. But tonight, I expected we will initiate a discussion at the request of Councilor Rosacci to initiate a charter review process and establish a charter revision committee. So I will turn it over to Councilor Rosacci, as it is your agenda item, to make your case.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the charter review has become, quite a discussion, and I wanted to make sure as a new counselor I did my due diligence and talked with all my colleagues, talked with the mayor, talked with people that had previously been on review commission to let people know, number one, where I was coming from, and what the motivation was for this, which for me is just responsible governance. I understand there's skepticism that might exist because this is the first time that the Democrats have had power in the town council in quite some time. I can tell you, at least for myself, that whether it was a Republican majority or Democrat majority, I would still ask for this because I think it's good governance to take a look at our charter every 10 years. Structurally, no one on the council can change the charter alone. I'm not trying to rewrite how our town is run. The goal is to review the framework, and the final decision obviously would rest with the residents, the voters, the taxpayers. Ultimately, the process belongs to the people of Wallingford, and the voters, not this council, will decide on the future of the charter. For those that don't know, a lot of people do, especially if you're here and civically engaged. But for those at home that don't know or aren't familiar, charter revision is a multi-month public process. It ends with the vote of the people. No one can unilaterally change anything. The voters remain in control, and that's a safeguard. The town charter should not be a political instrument to be used for advantage. Treating revision as a power struggle undermines the very purpose of this document. It's a framework that protects balance and defines authority. Reviewing it should not be treated as a partisan act. It's responsible stewardship. Charter review is about strengthening our institutions, so no matter who holds office today or 8 years from now, the rules are clear and the processes are predictable. The last comprehensive revision was done in 2017, and since then our operating budget has grown $30 million. Capital projects have become larger and more complex. Construction costs have escalated dramatically, and public expectations around transparency have evolved. I am not saying anything is broken. This purposely is not a crisis response. It's a governance check-in. Wallingford now operates at nearly $200 million a year, and our capital projects are significantly larger than they were a decade ago. Periodic review ensures our foundational document reflects our scale. Strong institutions don't wait for problems, they prevent them, because governance documents aren't like appliances. They don't suddenly break, they drift. Budget scale grows, capital complexity increases. Transparency expectations change. Reviewing before there's conflict is what keeps things functioning smoothly. And the history of charter review, since its adoption in 1962, it's been reviewed 6 times. So 1969, then 1973 with only 4 years in between, then 1981 with 8 years in between, then 1989 with another 8 years in between, and then 2009, that was a 20-year bout without any review. I know Mayor Dickinson was elected in 1984, there was a review in 89, and then not another till 2009, My understanding from the history of that was very tumultuous that year. There were 7 items that were put up for vote, and all of them were voted down. Then 8 years later, there was another review in 2017 where there was some changes made. I think that decennial review, or every 10 years, is common practice, although it's not statutorily required. Now, if the current charter is clear and modern and aligned with how we operate today, then the review will confirm that. If there are areas where clarity would prevent confusion or conflict, the Charter Revision Committee can recommend adjustments, and ultimately voters decide. That makes it a low-risk, high-transparency initiative, and that's what I'm looking for. So there's some questions that have already come up either from my colleagues or from the public, and so I just want to address a couple of those questions that have come up to try to get ahead of them, and then obviously have any of my colleagues ask questions or have discussion. But you know, the first question was why now? And again, it's because responsible, solid governance doesn't wait for our crisis. The last comprehensive revision was in 2017, and our operating budget's grown $30 million. And periodic review of governing documents is normal, and it's healthy, and ensures that structure keeps pace with scale. It isn't about who holds office. It's about whether the framework that guides this town reflects where we are today, not where we were 10 years ago. What changes do you want? I think the Charter Revision Committee will examine the document and determine whether any changes are warranted. I'm not here with a predetermined outcome. I'm here with wanting good governance. My role is to support a transparent review process. Any recommendations will be debated publicly and voters will decide, and that's how it should be. You still haven't told us what's broken about it. So because this isn't about being broken, it's about whether we can make our governing document clearer, more transparent, and better aligned with modern municipal practice. Responsible governance is proactive and not reactive. And now what happens if Wallingford does nothing? And really nothing dramatically happens immediately. However, large capital projects that are 7 to 10% of our annual operating budget will continue triggering procedural disputes. Debt visibility remains budget workshop dependent rather than structurally required. Digital transparency remains policy-based or practice, but not charter mandated. Ambiguity persists around referendum proportionality. Governance standards remain tied to personalities rather than structure. Smaller refinements now prevent larger corrections later. So again, I want to make sure that it is known that why I want to do this is for responsible governance. I think every 10 years is standard and important and really good governance, and that's why I'm bringing it before the council today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. As I said, I thought it'd be a good idea to just begin a discussion on this. Have Councilor Versace share her feelings on this, why she introduced the idea. And that's as far as I thought it would go wanted to go tonight, other than to get some input from any one of you. And this is a good start. Councilor Laffin.
Thank you. And thank you, Councilor Versace, for bringing up the conversation and some of the dialogue we've had over the past couple days outside the meeting. To me, the charter is a foundational document. It's meant to breathe with our government. It establishes how our government exists, and it is designed to, at its core, not have to be changed and tweaked and amended and revisited. The 2009 debacle was a mess, but the charter, it was imperative that components of that charter be modernized. So we got together several years later, and we worked hard to get that done and to limit that scope so that all those components could be modernized, and we could proceed from there. And it was very successful. The community accepted it overwhelmingly, and I think the very focus of that session was to not have to keep redoing this or not have to keep revisiting it. Components were, like I said, they were changed. The hers were added with the hymns, and it was generalized more often so that when we do need to revisit or address something, that it could be handled without a charter change, that ordinances or the executive branch or even our body could act and do so within the limits of that charter. I think, we talked about the budget's been growing, and that charter that we've been living with for about 10 years now was designed to withstand all these adjustments. Everything is relative. So I still believe the charter as it is remains clear and in line. As far as the 10-year standard review, I've been doing this this is my 8th term, and I've been involved for 24 years, and I don't think that's not a standard that I'm familiar with, either with my friends or colleagues in other towns, either. I don't remember the last time Meriden redid their charter or North Haven, or how frequently. So I think what we've got is working, and just for clarification, it's healthy to look at it. It is, sure. I read through it again because I knew this discussion was coming up. If you want to count that as a review, I didn't see anything that stood out to me. And if we're going to talk about what things need to be changed, and I think we need to go in with some sort of idea, because the way that it works in Wallingford is the charter is either open to be amended or it's not. And once it's open, it's a free-for-all, and it's everything and anything, without any sort of structure or guidance that the council is supposed to give to that revision committee. The revision committee does not need to follow it. And then that's what happened in 2009. So I think without we're not being reactive. It's a strong document. It was done really well. Councilor Tata was the vice chair of that commission. That commission worked really well together. It was very bipartisan. I think they did a good job. And without you can look at it now. That's your review. I don't think it requires us opening it up and creating a commission to look at it. We're elected. We represent the people. And it's on us to keep looking at that. So without any specific reasons or excuses to look at it, I think it's fine the way it is.
Okay. Anyone else? Councilor Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Meriden convened its Charter Revision Commission in 2025. Their charter was adopted in 1977 and then followed by an amendment in 79. Our charter was adopted in 1962. So for reference, in 1962, we had less than 30,000 people in this town, and now we have close to 50,000. So we've had about a 48% increase in population since we adopted our charter. Further, the amount of development that's taken place since 1962, back then would have warranted an at-large, for example, council system to be completely fine and totally relevant. That being said, a lot of that farm space and open space and even some of the factory space is now occupied by people. And so some of the people that talk to me would at least like us to think about whether it would be recommended or warranted or discussed at least as to whether or not we might want to change the way that we perhaps elect our council, for example, by district. Now, I'm not suggesting that I'm completely in favor of that. I'd like to have a discussion where we can talk about the pros and the cons, but in order to have that discussion, we have to have that discussion. So, if nothing else, the system that we put in place to run our town is now, from the 20th century. We're in the 21st century. That doesn't seem to be a problem. The country's, older than that. But I do think that we should really start to think about the way that our town has changed. the way our town is currently organized, and if there needs to be or could be suggested some changes to maybe the larger structure in which the way that we operate. I'm not really a fan of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. For years and years and years, to Councilor Rosacci's point, when the Democrats would bring up charter revision, it was usually about having an undefeatable mayor that we couldn't get rid of, and so now we needed to change the rules so that we could overcome the 40-year incumbent. And quite frankly, those days are over, right? We're no longer operating under those rules. We're no longer operating under the same system. The people that were involved in government in 2009 and 2017, although some of you are still here, are no longer here. And so for us to have a fresh look, to have a look at the way that we do business as a government, I think we should look from top to bottom and think about it. Because quite frankly, the town isn't the same as it used to be. It's the farms that were once there aren't there anymore. In fact, the industrial parks in some cases are now disappearing. The factories that are there are gone. There's people living in Judd Square now. In 1962, I don't believe that was apartments. And so if we're going to have a real serious conversation about how the town has changed demographically, we're older now. The median age in our town has gone up. We're now an older town. We have fewer younger people. I mean, there's so many things that are not the same in this town anymore except the government. And so why not take it as an opportunity to have a discussion, to look through things, and to ask the hard questions. And you know what? If at the end we decide it's fine, great. But I do think it's worth having the discussion. So I thank Councilor Rosacci for bringing it up. I respect everyone's opinions, including people who have participated in it in the past. But I do think that given the historical context in which that document was designed and passed and lightly amended over time, I think it's not the same town anymore. We're bigger, we're more diverse, we're older, we're more spread out. Having at-large representation when the majority of the people were kind of concentrated in certain areas or in certain villages around town kind of made sense. Now we're all spread out, and probably 4 of us live in the same neighborhood up here. Is that fair representation of the entire town? Well, you could argue that our records and our pedigrees and whatever are the qualifications that make us electable. However, if there are people within a certain part of town that feel like their questions, their concerns aren't listened to, then they have no recourse in they themselves to get involved in government other than to pick one of us. So, bare minimum, let's open it up. Let's look at it. Let's have a hard discussion. Let's talk about it. And if at the end of the day, we decide it's fine and everybody votes as such, then that's the way it is. But I do think that it's recommended you look every 10 years, and I do think that that we're about due for that. So thanks for letting me talk.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Councilor Rivard.
Full disclosure, I'm not, really passionate strongly one way or the other of this at this time. But for those who know me, I'm highly focused on kind of process improvement, trying to see where we can look ahead and get ahead. If this body wanted to look at this, I would say, hey, look, we don't want to break anything that's not broken. We absolutely should never do that. We shouldn't be fearful, though, of looking under the hood and asking ourselves and challenging ourselves. I really appreciated, Melanie Rosacci's commentary because it truly was not, the way it was presented was not confrontational. We didn't really speak about this in advance much other than, bring it up if you think it's appropriate. So if the council as a whole wanted to look at this, I wouldn't be against it, and I would just ask, we should approach it with we do need to give good guidance, if we were to do it, to those people we selected to review, and I think we can do that. And I think we could narrow it or expand it as much as we want. I understand the comment, hey, you got to open it up and everything's on the table, but I think we could guide people to the things that matter. I mean, I've heard almost everybody up here, offline conversations or not, like, how do we handle big ticket items? How do we handle big ticket capital items everyone gets elected every 2 years. It's so big that it's hard to make those choices and then get the feedback from the town on, one high school or something else. People almost are thirsting, to have a town vote on that. And we actually have to approve something that some people might not be interested in approving in order to have a referendum pulled on a budget item. So I think there are some things that are tough that everybody could rally around if thoughtfully, assessed. I don't think we need it 100%. I think there's a lot of stuff that we could look at with ordinance. That's, I've been talking with Jesse about a lot of things in that. And to the extent we can do that and not change things dramatically all the time, absolutely, we should do that too. But, if this came forth and the, majority of this group was for it, I'd sign up and say, yeah, let's give it a shot, I was thinking maybe a little bit down the road once we all got working together, but let's tackle big things if we want to. We can do this as a team. That's my thought.
Thank you. Councilor Carmody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I echo a lot of what my colleague said. I think opening the charter is about best practices. It's about taking a thoughtful look at whether the document is up to date, whether it is consistent with state statute, and reflective of how modern municipalities operate. I think the charter is a living document that should be reviewed periodically to ensure they align with current law, current standards, and the expectations of our community. We are all familiar with the process. A Charter Revision Commission reviews the document carefully, engages the council throughout, holds public hearings, and ultimately brings forward recommendations. Nothing happens without transparency and public input. As we think about our strategic direction as a town, it makes sense to look at the framework that governs how we operate. We are in a new era. We have a new mayor, we have many new town councilors, and I think we all share an interest in modernizing our community. I do not see why we would not take the opportunity to ensure our charter reflects the standards we want for Wallingford moving forward. And so I'm supportive of this too, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to share? Okay. Would anyone in the public like to weigh in? Come on down. Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. By my count, I think there's 5 or 6 counselors new to the council who have not been through a charter revision. I know there's 5 or 6, and I think it would be a good idea to review this. You've got a lot of new faces up there with a lot of new ideas to look through this document, and I think once you review it, talk about it, have the conversations, it opens up different viewpoints for the rest of the counselors. And, usually that leads to good decisions. So hopefully you will take a look at it. I would support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, in the back.
Jason Michael, Meadow Street. First, I'd like to thank Councilor Versace for her presentation. It was well thought out and informative, and I think it allows a lot of people who are afraid. Let's face it, change is scary to a lot of people, but I think it's well worth doing. Especially if, we're talking a decade. It was a decade ago, and yeah, it's a lot of work, and there's headbutting, and there's bound to be disagreements, but with that comes improvements that I've found. I'm not suggesting, I think that this process should be done with a pick and a shovel and not a stick of dynamite. I don't think the charter needs to go into the fireplace and be rewritten completely, but it's hard to sell the fact that our town was run by the same person for a very, very, very long time. We now have a new mayor, newish mayor. We certainly have a different dynamic on the council. We have new people up there. I think this is the perfect time to do this, and I would caution speaking for the public on this item without talking to them and finding out, because it doesn't get brought up that often. And I think you'd be surprised by the amount of people who want to see some change, or at least want to see what we do examined to see if it's still viable today. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the charter like the back of my hand, but how often is the internet or online subject matter mentioned in there? It's the world we live in now. We are clawing our way into it as a town, but that needs to be addressed as well. I mean, there's a slew of things that could be, and I'm not going to start throwing things out there now, but I think that most importantly, the public, you guys should really get to work and talk to people, because I have not come across many who think it's a bad idea, aside from the fear of change. But I would suggest we throw these things in the electric bills all the time. I mean, how hard would it be to throw a simple survey out? You know, describing the process, describing not necessarily the details of what could be or what should be, but would you be in favor of it? And it's a relatively inexpensive thing to do. And if folks want to weigh in and it's important to them, they'll send it back. And at least that's a starting point, rather than talking about opening the charter for weeks or whatever, a couple of meetings, and then nothing happens after that. Maybe really put your ear to the train tracks, and that's one way to listen to the public, at least on a very basic level. That's it.
Thank you. Yes, in the back.
Thank you, Chairman Testa. Good evening, councilors. My name is Joe Sanders, 43 Piper Drive. In terms of the charter, just keep in mind, I think you all are probably a lot like the rest of us. You're busy, you got a lot of things to do, you serve the town, and if this is the most important issue that the town has, then 100% you should dive into it. But if this isn't the most pressing thing the town has, think about what other business is going to be put to the side. You cannot do everything you ever want to do. So it is important probably to also talk to folks who have been through this before and honestly assess the amount of time involved and realize that it may even take a little bit longer than that. So I just encourage you to, consider the cost before jumping in and deciding this is something worth doing. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. The other thing I'd throw in there to Councilor Reynolds is that, it's interesting to say this has been offered before by the Democrats as political reasons, but trust us, we're different. And maybe that's not exactly what you said, but that's kind of what I heard. And there's some I think that a lot of us say that, look, we want to trust everyone in good governance, but the reality is that we do see the world differently sometimes, and sometimes we do have agendas, and sometimes this is about power. So regardless of what your motives are, and only you know and only you can check that, I would throw out that when it comes to the challenge of representation, we are a small town, and I appreciate that each one of you are accessible. I appreciate that I can speak to each one of you about things. And I don't really care if you all live in the same neighborhood or don't. But if there are folks in town who feel that is a problem or concern, the solution is real simple. We have a Republican town committee and a Democrat town committee that people tend to run through. Whether you like it or not, we're a two-party system. I can't speak for the Democrat town committee because I'm not allowed to be a Democrat town committee member and a Republican town committee member. But I can guarantee that in a Republican town committee, it's open. Anyone who wants to run can put their name forward and put their name out and run. And so I would simply say that no matter what, if we had representation from everywhere around town, does that really change whether the representatives are accountable to the people? I don't think we have a situation where the representatives aren't. So I thank you for each of that. The reasons for change, regardless of what they are, I would encourage you to think about the time that has to be spent on that. The town has a lot of things we have to do, and if that's the most important thing we have to do, then carve out the time to do it right. There's a lot of things that it's better to write than do quickly. So, thank you.
Bill coming from Broadview Drive. First off, I greatly appreciate Councilor Versace for bringing this up. I wholeheartedly support this. I don't think that there should be any partisan politics involved with it. Never thought there would or should be. But I also noticed that when we want to compare our town to other towns to favor that decision, that's great. But when we don't, we ignore it. For example, Cheshire. Cheshire has a trigger number. I don't know what it is. It could be $500,000, whatever. That number automatically goes to referendum every year. So it's a major expenditure. You guys could set it, or the charter can set that number. For example, community pool would have went to referendum. So the whole town would have either voted yes, they want it, or no, they didn't. And that's the ones that are paying the bill, us taxpayers, not 9 of you guys. And then if you guys vote for something that the taxpayer really didn't want, then we have to go out there, get all the signatures. We've been down this road before. But if there's a trigger number that we as voters get to say, yeah, we want it. For example, 1 high school, 2 high schools. How much money did we already waste on consultants? And then eventually, we all know that there's going to be a referendum. And then all that money and time has been wasted because if it's decided by the referendum and it gets found out, well, we really don't want the 1 high school, we wasted all those years. So to let the voters speak, have a trigger number involved in that, and that's only why one of the examples that I'm bringing up as a benefit to do it. We also like to compare ourselves to Southington, and in their charter they have a public works committee, police commissioners. They have all these different things, which I wholeheartedly also support, because the more information that they can come back and give to you guys, it makes your job easier, because it brings their input as opposed to maybe somebody doesn't want something. For example, they talked about the bow hunting or whatever. If there was such an entity that can come forward, like Park and Rec, I've been going to the Park and Rec Commission, and it's, in my opinion, it seems like they don't have any authority. They're just advisory, and the director has no problem telling them that. Look, you guys are just advisory. So why even be on that committee when it doesn't set up for, okay, this is what we want to do. But you guys can either do it by ordinance or by the charter. But either way, even if it has to be done by ordinance, then please do it. But at least entertain, open up to get some dialogue, because as the other gentleman had stated, it seems like it's a political football. Yeah, it has been. Because there's certain individuals that were always on there, and it was just a wordsmith changing of whatever. Most of the things are things that I brought up because the charter was being violated, so they took it out and changed it, whatever. Now is the time to move forward as a town, as the other speakers spoke, including you guys. And I commend that, because you can only improve on something that's there. You can't make it any worse, or at least I hope not. And thank you.
And thank you. Okay. Well, we've had a discussion. We'll see where it goes from here. Item 10. Make a motion to approve my rules.
I make a motion to approve the Town Council Rules of Procedure.
Second.
Okay, just for the record, we basically went over these and had agreed with changes that had been made a couple little minor tweaks, but the problem was that we couldn't find a way to turn the red line version into a real version, believe it or not. I don't know what happened, but so I retyped them in the format you received, which I needed a little help at the end, just when it was transferred to PDF. But anyway, that's why it looks different. That's all. We couldn't find a version that could be edited. What?
I had one. I told you that.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. I sent it to you.
I couldn't open it.
Oh, because I sent it to Apple.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, that's why it looks different, but nothing in there. I didn't make any other changes. Oh, I did. I need to confess. I changed chairman to chair. I changed vice chairman to vice chair. I removed any of the gender stuff, just because I thought it's appropriate. And that was about it. There was a couple of I might have seen a grammar that I tweaked, but I didn't change anything other than what we went over. But I want to make sure you all saw them, and if you see anything that you have a problem with, let me know. Otherwise, we vote on it tonight, and the date on it sticks. Anyone have any comments? Yes, Councilor Tata.
A few things, Mr. Chairman. First, just a couple formatting things. So on page 2, the first 2 lines also appear on the prior page. I think those just need to be removed.
You want to listen carefully on this one, Madam Clerk, please.
So it reads on the bottom of page 1, Roman numeral 8, the chair of the town council and the town clerk will sign 2 copies of the approved minutes for public inspection. The public library will receive a signed copy of the minutes of all council meetings. And then page 2, of the minutes of all town council meetings.
Yes.
The chair of the town council and the town clerk will sign 2 copies of the approved minutes for public inspection. The public library will receive. So that's those first 2 lines on page 2 are duplicated from the prior Roman numeral.
Understood.
So those just need to be removed.
Okay.
And then moving on.
Hold on one second. I want to write this down. So that's just a duplicate line.
2 duplicate lines.
Right,
yes.
right. Duplicate lines to be removed. Got it.
And then Roman numeral 16, decorum and order. The formatting for that item looks to be off, so under A and B, they're just not lined up. It looks like there's like indented lines and other lines that aren't. And I would suggest moving that entire Roman numeral down to page 4, just so that the heading isn't on its own separate page.
Right. Clean it up.
Yeah.
I will tell you that item B was, for whatever reason, a lot of the problems had to do with copy and pasting, and then whatever the rules of the last document took over. So I had this perfectly lined up, left and right, and then when I exported it to share it, that paragraph became almost unrecognizable.
Okay.
So our town clerk was kind enough to fix that up, but yeah, I see what you're talking about.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly margins and, making things make more sense page to page.
Yeah, thank
We
you.
can tweak that stuff without a doubt, because that doesn't change the content.
Right, okay.
None of this changes the content.
Yep. And then, all right, so that's it I have for, just formatting, but I did have 2 questions on things I thought might have been changed when I was comparing the 2 documents. So Roman numeral 4, the final sentence is not in the copy that I was looking at. And that sentence reads, "The town council may meet in a workshop format where action can only be referred back to a regular or special meeting of the council for a vote. At any workshop, public comment is not mandatory but may be allowed at the discretion of the chair, except as noted in 12B3. So was that added based on our discussion?
That had been added in the red line version, or, right? Is that what you're looking at, the red line, right? That had been added. That's why this got so confusing when I was sharing 4 versions of this with you earlier.
Yeah, because that was not in the most recent version that I had been operating off of with the last council, because that's basically, so that change, I mean, if this council votes on this, that's fine, but that is basically taking away public comment at workshops.
Correct. As being mandatory, correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure we all see that and are okay with it. I don't know that I'm necessarily okay with that.
Okay?
And the other question was Roman numeral 14, letter B, under procedure. I believe this was in the, I know we just talked about this several times over the years. So it reads, each counselor should review the entire consent agenda at his/her earliest convenience. Any problems or questions that arise regarding an item on the consent agenda should first be taken up with the mayor if a satisfactory answer has not been obtained. So I know we had talked about that several times over the years, whether it's mandatory to contact the mayor or not if you are requesting a consent agenda item be removed. So some items don't necessarily involve the administration, most do, and I'm certainly happy to always call the mayor. He's always very receptive to that. But I just wanted to know if that's, I just want to clarify that that's a hard and fast rule. So if we're going to pull something off the consent agenda, it's expected that we're going to contact the mayor's office before doing so?
Well, it's funny you bring this one up, because that paragraph drove me crazy. Because, and I read it as, even though it's not stated, if you have not received a satisfactory answer from either the department head or whomever you ask questions about, then you should go to the mayor. Because otherwise it makes no sense.
Right.
It said you should first be taken up with the mayor if a satisfactory answer has not been obtained. From whom?
Exactly.
Right, but because it took so long to get it to this place, I didn't mess with that paragraph. But I know what you're saying. My read on that is there should be a sentence in there perhaps that says that, a counselor should seek clarification, however they want, you know what I mean? I'm not saying it like that, but, and then if they don't get a satisfactory answer, talk to the mayor. Because I think that's what we do. We see an agenda item and maybe we'll call the department head and say, oh, what is this about? What is that? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what's expected. And that's, I think, how it's always been. And then if you weren't satisfied, you talk to the mayor. And then you let the chair know, yeah, I have too many questions on this one. I want it pulled. Or frankly, you don't even have to do any of that. You just request that it be pulled.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering, if you're expected, because, for example, so I pulled the minutes off of this consent agenda because there were some edits that I was suggesting. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't assume you would ask me to contact the mayor's office, but right. I certainly could if that's if that's the rule that we're all agreeing to, then that's fine. I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page as to how that should function.
I'm reading something. Excuse me one moment.
Or maybe we do. Maybe if we want something pulled, we just CC the mayor's office. I don't know. Mm-hmm.
Well, every time we talked about this never really came up. But Councilor Laffin?
As I recall, this was added a long time ago because of councilors who are no longer here. It's more of a due diligence courtesy thing. It was kind of like a code, right? Mm-hmm. Craig's laughing. That among the counselors, that if you were going to pull something off the consent agenda, that you weren't going to show up and be like, what color paper was this written on originally? And they're like, pink. And they're like, okay, thanks for coming out. Because then we were having directors and staff were showing up, and it was for something that could have been a quick phone call that nobody else had any questions about. They wouldn't even ask other counselors. They weren't discussing with the chairman. So it was all a due diligence thing. I don't remember why it got worded like that. It was very early in my being on the council. I think it was the beginning of my second term, and it's just been there ever since. But I know what you mean. No, do you have you had an issue with the minutes? You wouldn't call the mayor's office. But the intent, it was a due diligence clause as a courtesy to the rest of the council and the staff, so that they're not coming out here on a Tuesday night for something that could have been handled on a quick phone call.
Yes, Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dealing with that first, I think we're all adults up here, and we try to be respectful for our department heads. And certainly if I called somebody, took something off of consent to ask about the color of the paper, I would expect my colleagues to give me hell about it. and I would take it. Because that would be inappropriate. And, you know, you rarely see me take something off a consent to ask questions. It's usually to vote no. Because I do call department heads when I have a question, or I'm able to do my research on the side. So I don't think that B is necessary. In fact, a prior iteration of B specifically required contacting the department head. And I believe it was 2 years ago that we watered that down to something similar to what we have here today. But I think getting rid of B would be appropriate, and we just acknowledge that C, which would become B, there's a procedure to remove something from consent. And then, you know, if it becomes a problem, we can deal with it, but it really hasn't been a problem. You know, that gatekeeper function, there's certain things that there's no need to contact someone about. And in fact, I think I've pulled something off consent, and I've told the chair and the clerk, you know, I don't need the department head there. Because I have the answers, or the answers that I needed, and it's my intent to vote no, so why even have the department head here when the stuff is in the backup? So I would just suggest that. Working back from there.
Well, hold on 1 minute, so we don't leave that. So
I would suggest striking.
I have no problem getting rid of B and changing the first sentence of C to just say if any counselor requires more information than is provided in the backup or more clarification, then they shall request it, blah, blah, blah. So that the first line of C needs to be reworded, and B could be eliminated before I go anywhere. Anyone have a problem with that? Just makes your lives easier anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
find
So I can work with the clerk directly on, you've heard what we said. We'll work on that first line as well as getting rid of the duplicate lines.
Thank you.
Okay, go on.
Thank you on that. The next, and I'm working backwards, in Roman 4, Councilor Tata brought up the public comment at the workshop. My concern is that the trigger is not subject, it's subjective. It totally gives the chair the power to determine at the meeting or prior to the meeting whether or not there's going to be public comment. And I don't think that's good openness and transparency. It's either there is public comment at workshops or there's not. And I've operated up here under both of those things. But to say, okay, there's a workshop, and then I get a call from a constituent, you know, am I going to be able to appear and let let the council know? My response under this rule is, hell if I know. The chair will determine it at the meeting. I may be able to reach out and that kind of stuff, but still that's not fixed. Bless you. And that could shift. So I think we got to cut bait or fish on this one. I would be more apt to have discussion, have public comment at workshops, because ultimately we do serve the people, and I want to hear from them. And I want my colleagues to hear from the people as well. So I think I would suggest, soft suggest, that we just say at any workshop, public comment is permitted. And that would address my concern. I don't know how my colleagues feel about that. Do you want me to go on before you play with that?
Well, on that issue, well, let's stick with each one as we talk.
Yes.
That was probably the leading item of discussion when we were talking about making any changes here. And I don't remember exactly when, but historically workshops were always council only. And agenda items where there was going to be no action taken were council only. But someone pushed to change that. And then we figured, well, why don't we give the chair discretion to, if it's something that's, I'm not even going to come up with an example, but let the chair have some discretion to allow it once in a while, depending on what the workshop might be about, or what the discussion is about. But this was a pretty serious change that was discussed and voted on. And so you're bringing that back up to be voted on again. But yes, Councilor Allenson. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we're on that matter, Councilor Allenson.
So I was the one who suggested this, largely because of budget workshops, because we don't have a mechanism where the council can talk to each other about the budget items. We end up spending a lot of time listening to very similar constituents talk about sometimes very old business. We also spend a lot of time in meetings such as the motions workshop, or the motions meeting, which is actually a meeting, but we end up hearing from the public on items that are not the subject of the discussion of the day. The public hearing is specific to workshops, budget workshops. Again, I don't really care what we do with any other workshop, but budget workshops are designed for the council to talk to each other, to come up with ideas and somehow and come together with some sort of a cohesive plan forward as far as how we do the budget. We then give the public the opportunity to, the public has the opportunity to attend any of these meetings. None of them are not open and none of them are not televised in the sense that we televise them. My point was, what ends up happening is we don't ever talk to each other. And so every year in my history here, so this will be my 5th, we essentially go through and the department comes before us, and somebody might ask a question about like one thing that they have, oh, what is this? And then that's it for that department, and we're supposed to make assumptions based on everything else. My thought, and this was a proposal that I put forth, and I believe everyone was copied on it, I just don't know how that is gonna go, was that we go line by line with the departments, and we use these workshops to actually workshop the budget the way that a budget would be workshopped in a corporate atmosphere, where we look at every line of revenue or spending, and if we have questions, we have the department head in front of us in order to hopefully answer those questions. It's not necessarily to question everything the department does, because of course the mayor has done this, but we don't have that opportunity to talk to the departments. Our opportunity as a council is when we call the departments before us in the workshops that are usually scheduled according to what questions we have. I don't really care about public comments in workshops, or as in I'm ambivalent to them. It's nice to hear from the public in the forum that is for the public, which is the public hearing, which is supposed to be after we have, or which has been most successful in recent years, after we have had our workshops, where the public has seen the way that we have talked to each other, and we've kind of parsed out all of these ideas. The problem is we aren't doing that right now, because we give the public the majority of the opportunity to comment and question the departments, which is fine, but the departments are still there at the public hearing. So my thought was not to necessarily, the only workshop that we ever use is budget workshop. Everything else is a special meeting which allows public comment. My thought is that we bring the budget workshops back, and I don't even care, we could change these rules next year, like if it doesn't work out this year, but we try it where we don't have public comment to see if we can get the work done. Because having everybody present 3 hours worth of motions at the motions hearing, not ever having worked together to come up with a list of questions or find out from the individual departments what exactly the need is, or what exactly every, every individual line item that we may potentially want to cut could be. Right now, we're all just kind of throwing darts at our own dartboards. And the Board of Ed has a much more constructive process by which they review the budgets. The Board of Ed, of course, is a very large portion of our budget, and largely not participated in. So although they do have comment, they have people sign up at the beginning of the meeting in order to make their comments, and then they are called on in the order by which they sign up. I want the budget process to move more proactively, and the thing that seems to be the break from when I wasn't on the council and watched the meetings to when we started allowing public comment at every budget workshop on every budget item was the public comment got a little bit out of control. I mean, granted, I started watching a lot of this when I was elected to Board of Ed, and it was COVID, and it was crazy. Anybody go back, watch it. It was crazy. These meetings were extremely long. Chairman Testa had a lot of comments that I agreed with, but whatever we're doing has not worked. We haven't come together as a council so far, and we discuss a lot about nonpartisanship and trying to have an open process, but we don't ever allow ourselves the mechanism to talk to each other, and by my understanding, workshops are supposed to be that mechanism. And breaking it up by having people comment on each comment that we make can a lot of times derail the conversation.
So I understand the concern, but I think at the outset, I mean, you could easily put in here, there will be no public comment at budget workshops. And that would meet your needs. But, we heard from a member of Planning and Zoning here tonight on something that I'm very concerned about the process. And that comment, that information, with us dealing with something, even in a budget workshop, would not have come to our attention. So I understand, but I don't, my whole point was the rules, the rules of engagement should not be fluid. One should know what the rules are walking into the room, and to say, the chairman's going to determine when the chairman decides when there's going to be public comment or not, I don't think is fair. So I understand the concern. I just think
neither do I. I asked for that to be stricken and no public comment at workshops.
that's fine. If that's the decision, then that's fine. I just will tell you that, I've learned, so ordinance at one point was in a workshop format, because the job of ordinance is to take in information, usually from the administration, on a modification of an ordinance, for us to talk about, and then to send to the full council, at which time the public has an opportunity to opine. And the problem with that is that by that time, the law department's already done their work. They've already baked the language, and there's been more than one occasion that this body has sent something back to ordinance because we learned something at the public hearing on the ordinance. And that's a failure of the system. We had the issue with the red vehicles over on Carriage Drive. You guys, the new ones, don't know, but there was a lot of red trucks that were being parked and taking up all the parking spaces and all of that stuff. And we didn't really learn about the gravity of the situation until we got to a potential ordinance that had something to do with that. And then a resident came to us and talked to us about that. So I just thought, if you want to, I'm not pointing my finger at you. If the body does not want public comment at budget workshops, which I usually listen to people and I want to hear what their concern, and sometimes they are redundant, but that's part of the job, right? To hear from the public, from various places, so be it. I just think we got to figure out, it's one or the other. You can't just have discretion on a whim. So, Mr. Chairman, do you want me to go to the next one, or do you want to see where we are on this?
What's that? Yeah, well, no, because we're still on this particular.
Yeah, no problem.
And everybody wants to weigh in. So, Councilor Tata.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This may just be a simple solution to this, but it seems that your practice as chair has been that we only allow public comment on action items, correct? As a rule?
No, we saw that tonight. We just had a charter revision thing that there was no action on, and we had public comment.
But as a rule, it seems like that's been your sentiment, correct, or no?
Yes.
Because I think what could be an easy solution is so a workshop does not have action items, just like ordinance does not have action items unless it's to send it to the full council. So in essence, you wouldn't be having public comment at a workshop at all if there's not an action item, which is what the workshop is about. So maybe you just want to say public comment will be 20 minutes at the end of each workshop. So you leave. All right, maybe by the verbal ugh, I'm not onto something here, but okay. So, you wouldn't need necessarily to have public comment on anything at a workshop if it's not an action item, which it's not. So maybe we just want to allow 20 minutes at the end to just in general. I don't know. It just seems like that could be a simple solution as opposed to we're in a workshop, and because it seems like the sentiment here is that the workshops, we should be able to get through a lot of substance, and then if we're, like during budget, if there's public comments on, every single, line item, then it ends up being more public comment than councilor comment. I think that seems to be the concern. So just throwing that out there, but maybe it's not a good idea after all. Thank you.
It's we're getting back to the situation where we need to have a workshop on the rules. Councilor Versace, and that wasn't a joke.
So I think I agree with Councilor Allenson that we need a working session. We need to be able to coordinate with one another. I think there is lots of opportunity for the public to make comment. I agree with Councilor Tata that we don't. There doesn't have to be public comment in a workshop. And even I agree with Councilor Fishbein, but we do have to decide either way. So I do feel comfortable saying that we get at least one budget workshop where it's a working session where we don't have public comment, and whether that's after there's a meeting where the public is able to come and give comment about things. I think that's great, but we as professionals need to be able, and as a council, need to be able to work with one another without sort of constant disruption. So I am in favor of having a budget workshop without public comment.
Okay, allow me to just step in for a moment there.
Point of information, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
The representation was made that I did not want public comment at workshops. That is inaccurate. That's not what I said. I just wanted to clarify.
Got
Thank
you. Let's take a step back. When we say budget workshop, there are a number of them. Here's how it was always done. There was a public hearing. When it happens has changed. And by the way, I intend to have an agenda item discussion based on Councilor Allenson's suggestions that you shared with us on the budget meetings. I liked that. So we're going to have that discussion before I schedule any meetings for the budget. So thank you for that. I wanted to give you the heads up. We will have that. About the budget process. But there was a public hearing which every department head needed to be at. And it was open to the public. It was the public's opportunity to question every department on their budget. And we weren't allowed to speak. We sit back and listen. That was the public hearing. Budget workshops at that point were then set up so the council could question the departments. Those, whether there was 1, 2, 4, depended on, well, originally it was, here, we're going to have 3 of them. And you showed up. But it got to the point where a bunch of department heads were required to be here for several hours and nobody had any questions for them. So the counselors were asked, give me an idea which departments you have questions for. And those are the departments we will ask to be at the workshop. And the number of workshops was determined by how many departments were going to be questioned. We didn't want to have a 12-hour meeting. So a budget workshop was us questioning the departments. I never had any questions for them, which is why I didn't go to them, by the way. Except why I didn't go to them, I was lambasted for that. Anyway, if I had a question, I would have gone. But anyway, that was what a budget workshop was. And it was only the council that asked questions. And no motions could be made.
It makes sense
then,
to have the public go
right.
first, where
Well,
the council doesn't speak.
Well, that's
so
another
we
one
can
where
hear
we decide that the debate becomes, is it a good idea to have the public hearing first or last? We're going to have that at another meeting. We're going to talk about the budget meetings as a group. I'm not going to dictate that without hearing from y'all. But that was the impetus to saying workshops need to be for the council. Now, if we decide that it really applies to budget workshops, and as Councilor Fishbein mentioned, maybe we only single those out as the workshops where there's no public comment. I'm fine with that too. But that was where it came from. Then we would have the motions meeting, which was a real meeting, and obviously any motion that was made was an action item that allowed for public comment. So there are a couple of things going on here. When do we allow the public to question all the departments? When do we allow them to speak on motions we're going to make? But is it necessary or mandatory that when we're questioning the departments for our own benefit, for our own understanding, should it be required that the public can also weigh in? Because that, as you can imagine, can add quite a lot to the time and is not productive necessarily to what we're trying to accomplish. That's where this all came from. So, and the more that we're talking tonight, we're not approving rules tonight. Unless we want to have a bunch of motions made to make changes, and we vote on it, and then we vote. So here's what I'm going to do. I'll let you keep talking. But I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you this. Anyone that has any suggestions for changes to these rules as you're looking at them, please share a memo with all of us. All right? And then at an upcoming meeting, all of those changes will be shared and we'll finish it up. You want to make all these changes tonight? Well, then go.
I only have like one more.
All right, go ahead. Well, then
I
that's
still
good.
didn't comment on this.
Well, hold on, you're on this part.
Yeah.
So Councilor Lappin is still on this. Go ahead.
So basically, there are 3 different types of sessions for a council, right? There's the public hearing where we don't talk and the public talks. And then there's a regular or special meeting, depending on what it's called, where we vote and we take action and everybody speaks. And then there are workshops. And if you want the public to weigh in or do anything other than ask or answer a question if they have factual information, then don't call a workshop. That's it. Like, we we are allowed to have a mechanism to not entertain public comment on every single word that we're discussing. No action is ever taken at a workshop, never has been, back when we had them more regularly. And I hate to limit it to just a budget workshop, because something might come up where we're like, oh, you know what, we really have to hash that out. We're gonna have a workshop. The public can come, we can record it, it can be on TV, they can sit there. That line, and at any workshop, public comment is not mandatory, but may be allowed at the discretion of the chair. To me, that means somebody's sitting out there who happens to be here and they're falling out of their chair with pertinent information that would be helpful to what's going on. That's it. It's not meant for the dialoguing and the weigh-in and the back and forth. And I don't want this to be this whole like, well, they don't want to hear from the public, because that's how it's always sold. That's how it was packaged when we eliminated the workshops. When Mayor Cervoni was chairman, we went one term where we kept workshops, but we didn't call any, so because people were upset that the public couldn't talk. And then the next term, we got rid of them altogether, and then they came back, and we left it to the discretion of the chair. They're all word games. But there's 3 types of sessions. 1, the public talks, we don't. 2, everybody talks. 3, just we talk. That's it. Right? That's a fact. It's not even, like, we can eliminate the workshop's ability to exist, but public hearings, regular meetings, or workshops.
Why can't we just say no public comment at workshops, and then it's either a budget meeting or it's a budget workshop?
Yes.
Okay, amen?
Yeah.
Well, are you like taking a poll? Are we?
Sort of am. I think I got the votes.
So no, over here, if this is a vote.
Councilor Tata will be against all workshop format meetings going forward.
Would you like to suggest a wording change, Councilor Fishbein, and tell me where it is?
It's that sentence at the end of Roman 4 that starts at any workshop. And I would just say at any workshop, public comment shall not be taken. And the effectiveness of that is the chair, when you're issuing the agenda, the chair of whatever body, whether it be ordinance or the council, determines at that time whether or not it's a meeting or workshop, and that dictates whether or not there's going to be public comment. I think it's
second.
I like it.
You're looking at me. There's a motion in a second. Are we voting or?
All right, so hold on.
No.
She's going to vote against it.
But that amendment has been made to the motion. So the motion has been made to amend the rules so far, as Councilor Fishbein spoke. You got it, Kristen? More or less, yeah. No, yeah. Wait, no, we have to vote on that. What's that? Oh, yeah. Anyone in the public?
See?
Not a workshop.
Sorry, it's the public coming, but.
No, there's a motion on the table, so it's not a workshop. Go ahead.
I got you. Jason Michael, Meadow Street. Speaking from the public side, I mean, how much of a pain is it to listen to the public at a workshop? You took the job. In fact, you disturbed households pandering for it. Now you want the vote, but not the voice. I don't care. I sit here disinterested more than I'm interested in some things here some nights. Doesn't mean I don't come, and it doesn't mean that I don't want to weigh in when I should. But I think I've seen the budget hearings. I've been to them, and I understand that there are individuals in the community that use a lot of the time. But I think it's a little short-sighted to think that, it's a workshop. To assume that 30,000 registered voters, there's not a single person out there who might have an idea that you don't, is kind of crazy. Now, if you got to wade through the mud to get to that person, then that's the job. You're making a rule, a law, to extract $200 million from this community. And just because you don't want long meetings, you're going to say that they don't really have the ability or the right to help mold that budget. I think that's a little short-sighted. And I think if, if you want to sit in those chairs, you should have to listen to the public when you're determining how much money you're going to take out of their households. I think it's important. I get it. There are people up here, maybe myself included, it's third time tonight for me that you had to hear me, that you may not want to, but I don't think that excluding the public from comment is your right. I don't. I think that you're there for us and because of us. To say you don't want to hear from us, that's a little disturbing. And that probably, maybe that's a morsel to chew on before making the decision, whether you tell people we're up here deciding, picking apart this budget and making changes, but I don't want to hear from you, even though you represent me. And I know there's a time at the one meeting where the public speaks and you don't, but these are the workshops. This is where the sausage is being.
Let me just weigh in. We're not making changes or making decisions at the workshop. We're getting our questions about the budget answered. That's it.
Right, so.
We're not even talking about making any changes.
Understood.
We're not leaving the public out of anything where we're making a decision or talking about making changes. I mean, I understand you feel strong about this, and this is a third rail type of discussion, but to imply that, we don't care what the public has to say about this, it's a little unfair because all.
Well, I didn't say you didn't care.
No,
I didn't.
No, but
I said you didn't want to sit through it. There's a difference.
Because it's not a night where we're making any suggestions or changes or motions or anything of that nature. Those nights, the public is able to speak on everything we do.
Right, but you're asking the questions that will mold the decisions and not hearing the public's opinion of those questions or suggestions. That's the point.
We're simply asking
to think that you're in a bubble. To think that you're in a bubble and it can't be improved upon is what the feeling is. Hearing, we don't want to hear from you. We got it. This is our time. That's the feeling that this comes across to me anyway.
I can understand. I can appreciate that.
Thank you.
That's not the intent, but I can appreciate that. Yes, Councilor Laffin, you wanted to?
Yeah, I'm just going to respond to Mr. Michael. The workshop never occurs in a bubble. There's always a before where there's public comment, and then there's a workshop, whether it's budget or something else, and then there's the after where there's again public comment. Nothing's ever determined in a workshop. Workshops are usually questions like the budget hearings, budget workshops, or I guess if we called a workshop to wordsmith something. But again, nothing's determined. That means there will be another meeting where we're going to all just talk about it again. But I think it allows the council to, it's a choice, and we don't have to use it, but we can't choose to use it if it doesn't exist. And then we may determine, or the chairman may determine, that it's appropriate to use. And again, nothing's ever determined finally. There's always a discussion, there's always a vote. I think it's still valuable.
Councilor Fishbein, you can continue with, and then Councilor Allison.
Thank you. The intent of the motion is not to dictate anything. It actually vests the power in whoever's creating the agenda to make the determination whether or not it's a meeting or a workshop. There is no requirement in law or statute that when we meet about the budget and the proposed budget, that we call it a workshop. It's not required. So that is a determination of whomever we decide to put in charge of that process. We could simply put, if it mollifies the concern, in the rules that there shall be no action items at a workshop other than perhaps referral to the full council. And that prevents the concern. But if the intent of a workshop is merely to take in information that is going to be imparted to the body itself when the actual vote is undertaken, that's a tool that a chairman should be able to employ, but it's not a mandate. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Allenton.
So I don't think I represented myself, that I didn't ever want to hear from the public. I think that I also represented, as far as workshops are concerned, that the public has the opportunity in the public hearing, and we could have as many public hearings or public meetings about the budget as we want. I'm only asking that if we call something a workshop, that we have some mechanism for the council and the department heads to exchange information that is not acted upon, where we are giving ourselves the time to converse more candidly than we might already. We have mechanisms by which anybody can reach us at any time. Our phone numbers are online, our emails are online. If somebody wants to make a comment, they are welcome to make a comment to our email. They are welcome to give us a call. They are welcome to post about us on Facebook. That is the public's right, and often their mechanism by which they reach out to us. I'm simply asking for a meeting of the council where the public has every right and ability to view said meeting and make comments. It just won't be on camera. That's like literally all I'm asking. I'm happy to hear from the public on whatever the public would like to reach out to me on. It isn't about that. It is literally about bringing it back to the council and getting the work done. And that's really all I have to say. I mean, frankly, I know how this is going to be represented because it's already been represented as such. I'm not asking to silence the public. There are many ways that the public has already reached out to us. There are many ways that the public discusses us. There are many ways that our words are used in whatever way that the public would have to fashion them, including tonight when the representation was made that, oh, I have to hear from the public again. It's not what I said. It's not the representation that I made. So it is the job that I took, and I fully understand that, but the other job that I took was a job in which I can get the work done. That's it.
Councilor Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As it was written before, it basically said it was at the discretion of the chair. Councilor Fishbein's concern was that if it's at the discretion of the chair, then people would come and then not know if they'd have the ability to comment. So if we don't necessarily want to say that there is no comment at workshops, and we do want to leave it up to the discretion of the chair to allow comment at workshops, then couldn't we just amend it to say that, you know, that somehow it would be, the notification of public comment would be made in advance. So that if the chair wanted to conduct a workshop and allow the public to comment at their discretion, they would announce it as part of the workshop. Or if the chair wanted to have a workshop at their discretion without comment, they would announce it ahead of the workshop, and then everybody walking through the door would know there's comment, there's no comment, et cetera. In general, I understand why people want to comment, why, and oftentimes provide important information, especially when you point out things like, well, you know, at the hearing they bring up things that sort of like changes things on the fly. So just in the spirit of sort of talking about the rules that we had already kind of like went through and kind of talked about, I find that that is sort of the sticking point, if there is any. It's like, if it's left at the discretion of the chair, which was actually a rule that was made in the last council, then if we allow the provision that that will be made as part of the announcement of the workshop, whether public comment takes place or not, then that kind of allows it at the discretion of the chair. It doesn't take it away entirely. It allows us to hold a budget workshop and say there will be no public comment. We could do it all. So that's just my thoughts.
You know, if I may. You may. Thank you. You know, the concern about the discretion of the chair, you know, we've all known each other for years, right? But if you go topic by topic, you know, let's just say that, you know, the role could get extremely political. Let's just say that there's some issue in town. You know, we recently had the issue, some people tried to make hay out of the mayor's private situation with the lawsuit. And let's just say that we have an opponent in the chair, empowered with the discretion, and the room is full of individuals that want to opine on that particular item. You have the potential of the utilization of that power in an inappropriate manner. And I'm not accusing, I'm just recognizing the possibility. Whereas, you know, you may have an issue at the electric division that is important, but the chair decides that they don't want to have a lot of people talk about that for whatever reason. He or she is empowered with the ability to come in with the club and say, no, it's 20 minutes, it's done. So that's ultimately my concern here. The rules of engagement, and I don't say that in the offensive way, they are the rules under which we operate. They're rules under which the public operates. You know, there was a time when I wasn't up here, it was a long time ago, but I got very involved in charter revision in that 2008, 2009, and I was here at every meeting. And there were some times that, you know, it was a democratically controlled council. I was a Republican, and, you know, there were times that they didn't want to hear from me. And there were times that that was employed, that I couldn't speak. And that was at the discretion of the chair. So I'm very, very sensitive to that power. And I think you have to, it's one way or the other. You can't just have it wax and wane. So I don't care where we fall, but I think we got to fall somewhere. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So where are we? Motion, yeah, I said the motion is to change the last line of 4, right? To simply say at any workshop, public comment will not be permitted. That's what you've said, correct?
Yes, sir. And I would be just as accepting of the public comment will be permitted.
Mm-hmm.
I don't take a side on either, but I think we got to decide which one. So if somebody would make that proposal to amend, I will accept that as a friendly amendment. I'm just looking to advance the ball. Because I don't see it, you know, as a hamper to production. I really haven't.
Well, then,
no, there have been times that I've
it's just
sat
a
here.
regular meeting then.
Yeah.
There have been times that I've sat here and said, oh, come on, you know, you've said the same thing 4 times. Yes, I will admit that. But it is part of the job.
I agree with that. And honestly, this is not about that per se, where, you know, because I've been around for a while too. There it's not about any individuals. It's about the process and what happens. And my read of that last line is that the whether or not there would be public comment at the workshop would be established before the workshop, not during it. I see what you're saying. So if, say, at one of them, the chair decides, okay, I don't want to hear from anybody. It's not like that. It's, I want this, the meeting, I want this workshop to be structured this way. And I'm really thinking of budget workshops. And so I can understand your concerns about having the discretion of the chair in there, having nothing to do with me. I understand what you're talking about. I just think that there might be workshops where public comment would be sought.
So I'm willing.
That's what I'm thinking of. So we're setting up the budget workshops, for example. You can say public workshops are going to be council only because the public will be speaking it multiple times. But we're going to have a workshop on whatever, the rules. And, we're going to have a workshop on the rules. And it might be, we might want to hear what the public has to say about that. Because we're having a discussion about changing things potentially, writing things, considering things. The budget workshops are really narrowly focused. I want to ask the police chief one more time, why do you want 7 cars and not 5? That's the budget workshop. That's what it's for. It's not about considering changes. It's getting questions answered. I want clarification on your budget. I want a little more information than what's in the backup on your budget item so that I could then think about what I want to do about it down the road when we decide to make motions and potentially make changes. So it's a very focused type of meeting, and I always felt that in order for it to give the council the opportunity to, get through it, not have people here for multiple hours, all the department heads, not have 7 of them, all of that, for that reason, for the ability to be concise and not keep people here all night, and I'm not talking about us. That was why a budget workshop was always done the way it was in the past.
So
and I wanted to return to that.
I'm
But
willing to modify
Yeah.
and just add the word budget before workshop. Any budget workshop, public comment will not be taken. And then everything else is
Why?
fair game.
Why not? Then why have either, if the public can't speak, or if the public can talk all the time, then just have meetings. Why are we even dancing with the wording of a workshop? You can add budget in front of it, and it's a budget workshop. I guess that doesn't even negate having a normal workshop. I think it's just clear. If it's a workshop, the public won't speak based on the motion. And if the chairman or people want the public to speak, or to comment, sorry, then it will be a regular meeting. It's just how you post the meeting, or the gathering, the session. It's a workshop or it's a meeting. That's it. Otherwise, erase every mention of the word workshop, and we have meetings and everybody can talk all the time. That's it. But if you want a mechanism,
True.
that's it. You don't have to use it.
True.
You could have one. You could have none. We didn't have any for a couple years. This is just about a tool in the toolbox. Sorry, you didn't call me. I should.
And then I guess at the
At the discretion of the chair, I'm allowing this to be a free discussion.
I guess at the subsequent meeting, if somebody takes umbrage with the fact of how it was characterized, how it was scheduled, they could go to public question and answer and say, listen, you know, I was going to mention this, and you know, I want to mention it now. That would be their opportunity.
Every meeting.
Yeah. So okay.
And no action's taken. It'll be an agenda item.
Agreed. Okay.
Just like now. We had a mini
You've
workshop.
convinced me
right?
on my own motion.
What's that?
He's convinced me on my own motion.
It's a vote.
You're withdrawing it?
No, he's good for it. Let's go.
What does it say?
That there will be no public comment at workshops.
Okay,
And you just decide whether you call a workshop or not.
okay. I think after all this discussion, I keep reading over that whole paragraph, and I tell you, I love the way it's written. I swear, I love the way it's written. No, not that way. No, this one was good. This one is right there, baby.
So you're voting against it. You're going to call the motion, though? Call the vote.
Anyway, yeah, all right, all right, we'll vote on Counselor Fishbine's amendment to the rules. We better roll call it.
Can we hear that motion again?
In the last line of section Roman 4, that it would say, at any workshop, public comment shall not be taken.
Look at it like the 3-minute rule for public comment that you don't listen to. You can do what you want anyway, right? Yeah. And then I think we said this. Somebody would appeal the decision of the chair. This is about notice, right, Craig? Councilor Fishbine? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It's about notice to the people. What to expect in that session.
Well, I'm going to vote against the amendment, but let's have a vote on the amendment.
Why are you voting against the amendment?
Because I like it the way it's written.
Okay.
He wants the discretion
I'm more open.
explicitly stated.
No, I thought Councilor Laffin spoke well on this, that, you know, these are 3 different mechanisms that we have. We don't have to utilize them, but at least they're the tools that we have, as you said, in the toolbox. So I'm going to support that.
All right, so if I call it a workshop when we're having the meeting, it's a workshop, and it's us only.
Yep. Well, commenting. People can be there.
Well, obviously, yes. It's us only. It's us only. All right, go ahead. Let's have a roll call vote on that amendment. I'm sorry.
Sorry, just point of information here. If we're removing that line, do we need to keep except as noted in 12B3? Wait, 12B3 is about if it's a personnel, right? 12.
That's about appointments.
Right.
Where we strictly say, you know, if we're interviewing somebody, the public's not commenting.
Okay, right, those don't have public already.
Right.
Okay, so
That
irrelevant.
pops
All right.
up 2 or 3 times.
Yep, so that's irrelevant. if we
Except
strike
as
that
noted,
line.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, can the
Yes.
clerk read the motion before we vote? Because I lost track. My apologies.
So I have it as, you guys are changing it to say, at any workshop, public comment will not be taken.
Correct.
And currently, it's at the discretion of the chair. And Mr. Reynolds had suggested an alternative, which we kind of glossed over because we have a motion on the table, but that you could notify whether comment would be taken based on the agenda item itself in advance. That was the other suggestion that got rolled in there. I honestly was ready to vote yes based on what it was today so we could get through the procedures, but we'll take a vote.
Welcome to the town council.
This is fun, trust me.
All right. Okay.
Allenson,
Yes.
Carmody,
Yes.
Fishbein,
Yes.
Laffin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
No.
Rivard,
No.
Versace,
Yes.
Tata,
No.
Testa.
Yes. It passed anyway. Okay, yes, it passes. So now that last line reads as changed.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question? Do we need motions for those other items that I suggested prior?
Yes, could you repeat all of them, because I lost track?
I sure can.
Yes, we do need one motion.
Okay, so
That is that we eliminate that section B, Roman numeral 14, section B, and revise the first line of what's currently C, but will be B, as the way you wanted it.
So moved.
Yes. It's,
Second.
What does that mean?
what?
I'm just
I know.
tired.
Where was it? Oh, yeah, when it having to do with the procedure of the consent agenda. There will be no section B, and section C will simply state, if a counselor requires additional information on an agenda item, he or she shall request that the item be removed. Right?
Well, can I just?
No. Yeah, of course, go ahead.
Well, the only, because there are additional reasons to remove something, you can't, I mean.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't bind someone to, that you can only remove it if you want additional information. You can remove it if you're just going to vote no, right? So you don't want to be that restrictive. A removal is a removal. I mean, why do we need to say why?
We could say,
That was a measurement of the time we were in. You could remove it now and everybody understands what to do.
So then what if you just
if a council desires that the agenda item be discussed, he or she shall request that it be removed.
Yeah, I think
There
you
you
can
go.
just remove if after following step above a counselor still requires more information. I think you could just remove that, because then it
Right.
would just read, he, she shall request that the item be removed from the consent agenda, blah, 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 blah. I think you could just remove those first few words, right?
Well, as I said, I mean,
Word
it
it
could,
with he,
it could
she.
simply say, if, section C could read, if a counselor,
No, remove that. Just start it where it says he/she. I think that accomplishes it.
Why not just say if a counselor desires to remove an item from consent, and then go right to, he, she shall notify the town council staff, yada, yada,
Sure, that
right?
works.
We don't need to get into why,
Yeah.
because it's irrelevant.
Should everybody be aware, though, that it's been removed, so we
Well,
can
that's
all
a whole
prepare
nother
to
issue,
discuss?
yeah. And because we've had that issue in the past, I get to the meeting and it's like, oh, this got removed? I didn't know that. So I don't know the vehicle by which.
hold on.
We don't
Yes.
notify it all the time.
We tried to do that last term, to have a Friday agenda after the Wednesday agenda, but that didn't work. So there should be communication, I think, from either the chair or the staff that an item was removed. Yeah, that's the other way to do with it. When you remove it, that you let the chair, you let all of us know.
I'll sleep anyway, so why not?
I'll repeat that on the mic.
If,
I wanted to appoint myself to the Charter Revision Commission first.
wait till you see the discretion I weigh on that one.
Oh, Lord.
I've reviewed the statute.
Yeah. If, I guess,
Irrespective of whether B is there, I will be reviewing and reaching out to the appropriate contacts.
I would just have it say, if a counselor desires that an item on consent be discussed as a regular agenda item, boom, he, she shall request that the item be removed. and go on and on, all right?
Sure.
So there it is. So we'll fix that line. I'll fix that line with you. So that's the motion, right? Council
Yeah.
Chada?
What about letting our,
Friendly amendment?
I am accepting as a friendly amendment, super friendly amendment.
what about the issue that we were sort of talking about letting our colleagues?
Oh, yeah. If the next,
I mean, you can just put it in notifying the town council staff and fellow councilors by yada, yada, right? No sense in that coming later.
yeah. I was looking for a place where to indicate that council staff will notify all councilors. I mean, they're going to be changing the agenda.
I'd say that makes more sense than
I mean,
putting it on a counselor to send it.
Bottom line is the agenda is going to be changed,
But if you're sending an email
agenda
to
doesn't get
her,
sent out.
why not just?
an amended agenda.
You can do that every time,
Let
repost
everybody
it.
know.
Then why do we have
No, I would
items
just send
removed
it
from
to her and
consent
the chairman
agenda?
usually.
I didn't hear that.
Wait, can I update you guys on that?
I just think if the initiation is a counselor removing it from the consent agenda and we're sending an email to Kirsten already, why not just say that email will be CC'd to
CC'd, that's it.
the other counselors, right? And then
Perfect.
why make more work for her?
Good.
So I would just add in that what's now the second line, by notifying the town council staff and fellow councilors by Monday, yada, yada.
Good.
Here we go.
I think the clerk might have something.
Oh, no, I was just going to explain that when you guys remove an item from consent, the agenda doesn't get changed. It's just you notify us, I notify the mayor's office, they notify the department head to show up in case anybody has questions.
It just becomes the motion, doesn't, you leave that letter out of the motion. That's all that ends up happening. We don't need to change the agenda.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. I apologize. These are for amendments
Right.
to the agenda. Well, that sounds good. Everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Let's have a vote on that amendment.
As far as adding, CCing the rest of the council, is that do we get into FOI? I mean, I tend to not email the entire council on things just for FOI purposes. I usually would send requests to the chair and the clerk and then let them disseminate what I like to stay away from emailing the whole council just for that reason. So I don't know if we would
It's not
rather
the same
put in
thing.
that
No.
council staff will inform the council. I don't know.
Actually, it doesn't matter.
When I remove something from consent, I just say, please
I mean, if
remove
you,
item
whatever email you send is subject to FOI.
No, I know, but we're not supposed to have discussions amongst the council.
Oh, right, but that's
It's a notification,
not a discussion.
as long as people don't say why.
Well, right, because then sometimes you
yeah.
send something thinking it's a notification, and then somebody writes back, whoa, hang on, I didn't.
exactly.
And then it opens a can
Oh,
of
right,
worms.
right,
So
yeah.
So
I
don't,
prefer to just send my correspondence to I usually send the chair, vice chair, and clerk, is typically what I've done.
Right, I know how you asked, and I
Yeah.
was like, well, and it doesn't matter to me.
but then you're responsible to tell everybody, so it's an extra email.
No, I think, that's why I'm saying the staff could inform the rest of the council.
That's what I mean, it's an extra email versus just CCing everybody so we're aware. No, everybody will not have a discussion about it.
I mean, I personally I stay away from sending emails to the whole council just for that purpose. I don't want to open up a discussion.
Right. Yeah, if a back and forth begins,
Yeah, which in the past it has.
you have an issue.
All of those people are gone, though.
You're here?
I only do that when I want you to
I
get
only
in
did it
trouble.
once.
Straight face, too. That was good.
To the clerk, are you okay with sending the notification of that to everyone, or is that a pain?
Yeah, if that's what the chair wants me to do, that's fine. I'm okay with doing that.
seems
Because
seems
all you guys
reasonable.
should be notified.
So is she gonna press forward on an email instead of just somebody pressing reply all right before that? This is like the same thing, isn't it? fine. Whatever you guys want to do.
Well, because we're in Italy. If we were in Germany, it'd be the other way around. I just saw that movie. Remember Stripes?
Oh, I haven't seen that in a long time.
You didn't see? Yeah, remember? About the bunks? Yeah. No, if we were in Germany, you'd be over there. What we agree to?
I suggested putting that after the word town council staff.
I make that a motion.
Okay, I move that in what is now C, the second line, which is now the second line, where it says notifying the town council staff between, well, right after that, that we would put and fellow town councilors.
Second. Is everybody paying attention so we don't have to repeat it 3,000
Yes.
times? Okay. Gonna call a vote.
Okay. Do we know what we're doing? Okay.
Allison,
Yes.
Carmody,
Yes.
Fishbein,
Yes.
Laughlin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Rivard,
Yes.
Versace,
Yes.
Tata,
No.
Testa.
Yes? Okay. So we've made a few changes to this.
I still have,
Does anyone have any other?
Yeah, here's one more.
yeah.
Okay, really?
So, yeah, I tried to do
I'm-
this one
I'm
like
kidding.
an
Go,
hour
go.
ago. In Roman 3, it's the fifth line down. We have this sentence, each individual speaking during the public question and answer period will be allowed to ask one question at a time. Really? I mean, we call that improper question. I can't even think of it right now. Objection to form. Compound questions. Are we really going to police that here? You can't ask that because that's, Mayor, who went to the park and who inspected and who was the engineer for that project? Oh, improper question. Nope, you can't ask it that way. 3 questions in one. No, come on.
I think it probably means topic, but.
Yeah,
But
I
they
would
said
just, I
we'll
moved
be
to
allowed
strike-
to address one topic at a time.
That's fine. If that's the intent.
Okay.
That's fine.
That is the intent.
Okay.
Do we have to change it?
I think
change it to
it would be
topic.
changed. So
One
I make
topic
a
at a
motion that will be allowed to address one topic at a time. So moved.
Second.
Beautiful. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay.
Okay, my last one. In the very first line of Roman 3, a blessing may be offered by a member of local clergy. So, when I first got up here years ago, we would do this. We've come away from this. Either we're going to do it or not. As written, if I was a member of local clergy, I can just show up and say, hey, I want to give you guys a blessing. The procedure used to be that we had a list and we circulated and the town clerk would reach out to the clergy, hey, are you available for this particular meeting? I understand why some forces have gotten us away from this process, but it's in the rules. So,
I think it's saying, though, it doesn't have to happen.
what hasn't happened in
Right,
at
so-
least 4 years.
But it could.
Okay, so Pastor Will, for instance.
Yep.
Used to call me all the time.
Yep.
Can I come and give a blessing? And I would go to the council chair, I'm pointing over there, but he was over there. Pastor Will would like to give us a blessing. Silence. So there I've got a member of clergy who has actively, there was a bunch of times. He was willing to come every meeting. Either we're going to do it or we're not, as far as from my perspective. I think they do it in Congress. I think I can tell you, we do it in Hartford. We have lengthy blessings in Hartford. Amen.
Give them?
They would not want to hear my blessing. But anyway,
Oh, the lengthy part through.
you know, so it's not like a taboo thing, but if we're not going to do it, I just don't think it should be in the rules because certain members of our community are perhaps relying upon that it may happen.
All right, take it out.
Okay, that's the motion?
I can't make a motion.
Hang on one second. Don't we normally do a blessing at the swearing in?
That's not our, yeah, but that's the mayor's agenda,
Okay, but it is a council meeting, correct?
technically.
Well, at the point of the blessing, I don't think it is, because it has not been turned over to the council at that point. So
Okay.
I believe that's a mayoral meeting at the point the blessing occurs.
Okay, all right, then I think it should be okay.
I mean, I'd like to leave it and I'd like to employ it. So if the motion is to take it out, I would be voting no, but, you know.
I'd like to leave it, but I'm okay with it being a maybe, so.
I am too. I don't see why
Right.
we want to make such a change. Like, we can do it if there's a reason, or if the chair would like to do it, and we don't have to do it.
Maybe there's a special occasion.
Right.
So how do we go about it happening then? Because we used to have it at every
Or
meeting.
maybe you could say at the discretion of the chair.
Well, here we go again.
It is at the discretion of the chair as it is, right?
Well, I think this language has softened. If I go back to the rules when I first got up here, I think it may have required it. And
Oh, I'm sure it did.
yeah,
I think Parisi was
yeah.
hard-fisted on it.
I vaguely remember Gina Morgenstein and Chris Shortell.
They opposed it.
There was a big, I remember being in the Record Journal one year, I believe. There was a big discussion about it.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think I'm the one that got it in there originally.
Maybe that's
Now
when
that
the
you
wording
say
changed to May. I don't know, but I just do remember this being a big deal. What, was that probably 8 years ago or so, I'm guessing? Yeah.
Yep, the Morgensteins were opposed to it.
It was probably because not all religions were being represented on a constant basis.
Well, I guess by recognizing it, but not doing it, then you have perpetual recognition of atheism. I guess.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no.
I
I think as long as all the, if.
I wouldn't go there.
As long as nobody's turned away, like if the synagogue came and said, oh, I want to do a blessing, great, here you go. You know, if the mosque came, then great, here you go. But if somebody's turned away, that becomes the issue, right?
Well, there you go. And now you've hit it. Now you've hit it, which is why I was in favor of eliminating the practice. It wasn't.
Want to turn people away?
Yeah. No, because once you accept one and don't accept another, you are now opening the door for a lawsuit. I mean, that was what it was all about, you know? Wallingford's Wallingford, we're all, so we knew we would, we were either gonna get,
So you're not going to.
Protestant or a Catholic, and then occasionally we'd get a rabbi. Okay, now expand from there. Where do you stop? Okay, where do you stop?
All right, then I'm fine
When
with
there's-
I'm fine with taking it out.
When the church of, God knows what, no pun intended. When the church of, yeah, right?
He is.
No, when the church, be honest, some kind of, whatever.
Right.
You know where I'm going. We just felt it, at a certain point, we made the decision that let's remove any religion from our meetings. And that was what happened. And then any chair could come along and say, I want to bring this back, the way it's written. What's that?
Any council can do the same. We're discussing it now, they could discuss.
Oh, you could actually make it mandatory. Yeah, oh, that's true, you could make it mandatory.
Nothing here is written in stone.
Yeah. The way it is now, it's not required. And if you want to make a change, go ahead.
I guess as we discuss it, am I of the understanding that if a member of clergy reaches out to the chair, that that request will not be found with disfavor?
No, that's not what I'm saying. But,
There's two negatives in there, but
yeah, but no, I mean, the problem is, when do I make the decision? What are my criteria for saying no?
I understand.
Is it a
Well, the concern of saying
pentagram? I
yes.
mean, what is it?
But there is a legitimate concern of saying yes also.
Exactly.
because No, and I recognize that. So, I mean, I'm sort of leaning towards taking it out, but
Started this with the opposite.
I understand, but that's what this is all about, is
The
us
workshops are
discussing.
for. It's a workshop, by discretion. Didn't we just-
I'm not going to make a motion to do anything with it, so
All right,
I'm done with the rules and proposed changes.
all right, this was actually very productive. Any other? Yeah, there's a few changes that have been made, and as amended, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One negative. Any abstentions? Okay, so there are new rules. We'll have them retyped and posted. And there being nothing else on the agenda, I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you all.